Mute. And then once I start, here we go.
Yeah, go ahead and start it.
Hello everyone. This is Brett Noel with Coachable Pickleball. Day 2 of the 3-day summit. Day 1, I want to thank all the participants that stuck with us and stayed with us for the first 3 hours. It was an amazing day yesterday. A lot of learning curves, especially for me being the very first time. Today I'm looking at the camera in the right place. Yesterday I thought it was on the other side of my iPad. So today should be a much better day for me as well. We have an exciting day today. I first want to thank our sponsors that made the Pickleball Summit possible. It's about giving value and information to the pickleball community. VitaFlow Sports, Pickleball Sports Apparel, Digital Spatula, and Coachable Pickleball. We want to thank those sponsors as well that made it happen. Today, we're giving away a lot of prizes. We're giving away 3 paddles. We're giving away pickleball clothing apparel. We're just giving us a ton of stuff away today. So make sure that you ask some questions, stay tuned, win some great prizes as well. Great speakers today. I'm so excited today to have Morgan Evans. He's going to be talking about the game within the game, how to accelerate your development by adding more challenges within pickleball. Steve Taylor, media in the pickleball world. He's going to be talking about that. Nicole Hopson. If you don't know Nicole, you're going to fall in love with Nicole, one of the greatest people in the pickleball community. She is involved with PPR, Professional Pickleball Registry. Why you want your instructor to be certified as a PPR professional. We have DJ Howard. DJ Howard, I've had the opportunity to coach and do clinics with DJ. And not only is he an amazing player, an outstanding coach, he's going to be talking about stretching, specific stretching techniques for pickleball players reducing injury. And I believe today he's not only going to be just talking about it, he's actually going to be demonstrating it for you. So you get to see DJ doing his stretching exercises. And if you're like me, who doesn't like to stretch, we have to. So we're going to learn some great techniques today. I have Mike Hoxie, who's going to be talking about his PIG tournaments, PIG. Pickleball is great. If you've ever been to a Mike Hoxie tournament, you know that it's run professionally and you're going to have a great time. Scott Golden, the Golden Boy, is going to be talking about the art of the earning, the way that he flies around that the end of the court. I'm going to let him explain to you what an earning is and how that came about. And then we have Coach Matty. If you're like me, over 50, and remember, 50 is the new 40, but that also means that 9 o'clock is the new midnight. So if you're over 50, you know what I'm talking about. Coach Matty is going to be talking about slowing the game down from the baseline to get to the non-volley zone without peril. So that's going to be an exciting conversation towards the end of the day. And then we're going to have a lot of giveaways today. So we got some great speakers that we're going to be going live with. Our first speaker is going to be Morgan Evans, an outstanding individual who helped put together the We Will Survive video. We shared that yesterday. We're going to share that again today. It's an outstanding video that was him giving his love to the pickleball community and showing how much he cares for us as we all care for each other. So we are going to jump in and right into Morgan. Morgan, how are you doing today? Okay, I love Morgan. Morgan Evans is not only a great pickleball player, he is a great coach. As a matter of fact, as a professional trainer myself, I still get trained by other professionals, and Morgan was one of my I took a lesson from Morgan, and not outstanding. He has the ability to key in. Morgan, I'm just sharing the love with everyone about you.
Good man. Appreciate
How
it.
you doing? How you doing today?
Hey, so far so good. I'm excited.
We are excited. First of all, I wanted to thank you for the video that you put together. We Will Survive. We're going to play it again today. We love it. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about your Coach Me. Love what you do. I was sharing with the audience that even coaches have coaches, and even trainers go to other coaches for training. And I remember I went down to drop my had to step out there, drop my paperwork. But I was down in Palm Desert and I took a lesson from you. One of the best lessons I've ever experienced in my life. So I wanted to thank you for that.
You're welcome, mate. How's your game looking?
Since the pandemic, I don't know if it's as good as it was, but it's looking good though. Thank you for all your help.
No worries.
Today we're going to be talking about the game within the game. What is that?
So the game within the game refers to a deeper challenge that you essentially put upon yourself. Think of it like a video game. Did you ever play video games in your heyday?
In my heyday, yes.
Okay, so imagine Super Mario Brothers. Okay.
Right.
And you can finish the game. You know, it might take you a couple of hours. You know, you get to the end, you save the princess. But within that game, there's also, you know, there are deeper objectives. Maybe you've got to collect all the treasure chests, or you've got to go through the whole thing without losing a life. So that's kind of a bit of a metaphor for what a game within a game represents. And obviously, I'll talk more about what the particular games that I like to put upon myself towards the end of our time together. But that's the gist of what it is in particular.
Okay, because I know there's a lot of people out there that's saying, like, the game is hard enough already, so why make it more difficult?
Well, that's a good question. Primarily because I'm more concerned about my performance at a tournament than my performance in recreational games. Okay. I remember when I was very young, I would go to a tennis tournament. My father was an organizer at a tournament called the Hopman Cup. It was a professional tournament, and we used to get season tickets, and I would sit on the practice courts. I almost had no interest at all in looking in going to watch the actual matches. I just loved watching the pros train. And one day I was watching Steffi Graf, and she was just sweating buckets, hitting thousands and thousands of balls for hours on end. And I asked her coach, and I said, you know, is this something that, you know, she's going to have to do out there today? And I said, no chance. But he said, you should always attempt to train harder than you would ever have to play in a match, you know? So when I took a lot from that, and I'll never forget it. For me, and I think a lot of people, pickleball is a mental task more than a physical one. You know, there's got a lot of physical challenges, but the mental challenges involved in being able to effectively multitask, handle a whole bunch of input, and come up with a good strategy and execution to eventually win a game and a match is a very difficult thing to do. I think you would agree, right?
Oh, absolutely. We were talking yesterday with Dane Gingrich about the mental aspect of the game. And here you are talking about the mental aspect of the game. It seems to me how important of a part that plays in regards to the improvement of players becoming better pickleball players.
Exactly. So for me, anytime I get a chance to redline my mental training, I'm going to use it. And I think we can all agree when we get back on court, it might be a little while before we're able to surround ourselves with the best players possible. So getting the most out of anybody in front of you is going to be a huge thing to help us develop. So I'll go back to that that video game analogy. So imagine you turn on your Super Mario, and you get a choice at the beginning if you want to play the game on the easiest setting, and say you choose easy, and it might take you 2 hours to complete the entire game. Princess is happy, you've won, great. However, how good did you actually get at that game? Who knows? It's tough. Then instead of that, imagine you started again and you put it on the hardest difficulty. It might take you 3 weeks to get through it. But at the end of the day, once you've finished, you're much, much better at playing that game. And then if you were to put it back on easy, it might take you 20 minutes to get through the whole thing. Okay. Does that make sense?
It does. The way that I'm kind of relating it to is from a video game, you're saying level 1, the path was easy. There's no challenges, no blocks. 2 and 3 gets a little bit more difficult. Could you give our audience maybe an example of a level 1 in regards to pickleball versus a level 2 and a level 3?
Okay, for sure. So say a level 1 would be, well, as simple as not breaking any of the rules. Okay. I mean, you think about the kinds of things that a complete beginner goes through. That's arguably the hardest part, just remembering the rules, knowing how to score. If you can get through an entire game without accidentally having a foot fault or standing in the wrong spot, that's great. You got through level 1. Level 2 might be, not missing a serve, and so on and so forth.
Right. Okay.
So essentially what I'm attempting to do, and I'm going to explain a bit more detail about, what's really going on with the brain and how we're trying to develop it before I get into the actual games that I like to use. We're essentially trying to train the brain to handle more complex tasks under greater time restraints. Drilling is fantastic. But one of the things it can't do is replicate the kind of multitasking that a game requires. Less than about 2% of us are actually able to excel at any task when it's multitasked, unfortunately. So if you can find a way to use recreational games to build upon your brain's ability to effectively multitask, that's huge. That's going to translate very, very well over into your tournament play.
It sounds like you're talking a little bit about what I call attentional resources.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's exactly right. It's a good question. So this game requires, it requires a lot of attentional resources to be able to, effectively navigate throughout an entire match well. So what does that mean? In short, we have a certain amount of resources at our disposal, our kind of cognitive ability to throw at any task. And I'll kind of help out here with a little visual. So we'll use a classic sort of pie chart.
Okay.
All right. Okay, that's as good as I'm going to do with a pie.
Looks good.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. My drawing's never been my strong point. So imagine you are a complete beginner.
Okay.
Almost the entire pie is going to be taken up, the entire amount of attentional resources that you can throw at the problem is going to be taken up by things like the scoring and knowing the rules, not breaking the rules. So you won't really have much. Maybe you've got 5% there to be able to throw at strategy, for example, or basic technique. As you get better and better, you start to be able to free up more of those resources to think about strategy or technique or a particular thing that a coach has taught you, until you start to not have to worry about scoring or stacking, any of that stuff anymore. And suddenly you get to use all of it for a new technique you're learning, or just the overall strategy in a match. This relates
Right.
to individual skills as well as sort of macro skills. So
Okay.
now, the important thing to recognize here is what's at play when we develop more of this pie and allow more of this pie to be used effectively in a tournament comes down to what's called the conscious competence model. And that's
Okay.
that's an important part of development. And I've got a whole nother whiteboard. Isn't that nice?
And it's all prepared.
Right? Yeah.
Who would know?
The hardest part of this whole thing was remembering how to spell conscious.
Yes, exactly.
But I think, someone out there can let me know if I got it right. So if we look at this, the very first stage is called unconscious incompetence. And I'll relate
unconscious
it to
incompetence. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll relate it back to pickleball. Before I started playing pickleball, I don't know if you can actually see that. Close enough.
I can't. As long as you're describing it, we're good. Unconscious. Okay. Step one: unconscious competence.
Unconscious incompetence.
Incompetence. Okay.
Incompetence. Okay. Yeah. This is the classic ignorance is bliss scenario here.
Okay.
Before I started playing pickleball, I was at stage one. I didn't know I wasn't good at pickleball. All right.
Okay.
I was unconsciously incompetent about that. However, so that's stage one. However, mid 2014, I moved to Seattle for the summer, and I played against some very good people, and I became consciously incompetent. So I realized at that point I was not that good relative to the people I was training with.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I knew. I found out. So I became conscious of how bad I was compared to the people I was playing against.
Right.
So this involved a whole lot of being hit by Chris Miller and Brian Ashworth, even Yoda Friedenberg. That man hit me. And I respected him for that. So in this second stage, I became consciously incompetent. I realized I was not great. So what did I do? I did some work. I started training. I started practicing. I enrolled in tournaments. And eventually I became consciously competent. Okay. I was aware that I was improving at various skills within the game of pickleball. Now, this is a great place to be. And especially if you've got a coach that's in that stage, they tend to have a much fresher idea of various techniques and whatnot to teach. So if you're ever worried about your coach not being a professional player, please don't. Okay. Now, after a certain amount of time, years and years go by, I became a professional player, and various skills passed into this last phase, and it's called unconsciously competent. Okay, so this is the point where so much of what I do on a pickleball court is not something that requires any conscious thought. It's been many, many years since I have really thought about how I hit a serve. And if I wasn't teaching, I would be almost dumbfounded to explain to a stranger, what I do to hit an overhead. It's all done on the subconscious part of my brain, in the same way that right now, Brett, I assume you can drive a car. I
can.
Good man. That's
how
great.
well depends on if you're talking to my wife or not, but that's a different story.
Fair enough. So it's been a long time since you've actually thought about the motor skills required in turning a wheel, depressing the accelerator, that kind of stuff.
Right.
So most of your conscious mind is freed up to handle more complex tasks like navigation and avoiding pedestrians, hopefully. Okay, so by playing these games within the games, not only are we able to start freeing up more of these attentional resources, But we're also able to expand the total amount we have at our disposal. We can improve upon the brain's ability to multitask effectively, being able to do more at any given time. Okay, so that's essentially the main kind of reasons why I find it's incredibly important to not just play a game of pickleball with the objective of winning a game of pickleball. Okay, that's not
Right.
That's not good enough. We need to be able to go further and dive deeper into more personal objectives, these games within games, so that you can really address weaknesses, and look at the kinds of challenges that you need to prepare yourself for better off the court, so that when you finally get on a tournament court, you're able to have most of those really tough things just locked away, and they're automated. They're in your subconscious. You don't have to think about them anymore. You want to be freeing up as much of this attentional resource to the all-important strategy, how you and your partner try to get to the end game of winning that gold medal, which we all love gold medals, don't we, Brett?
We love them. You know what, Morgan, tell me if I'm right or if I'm on course. When you said unconsciously competent, the first thing that came through my mind was muscle memory.
Yes.
Is that close?
Yeah, no, you're exactly on the right track with regards to learning technique. We're learning a physical technique. You want to get as much of that muscle memory. And it's kind of a weird thing because realistically, muscles don't have memories. What you're essentially doing is building a stronger neural pathway through a process called myelination. And that's a topic for a whole nother time. We'll do that in the next summit, shall we?
Well, we'll do that in the next time. So I love the 4-step process. So if you can, I wrote down here, what kind of games do you like to play within a game of pickleball?
Okay, so that's a good question. For me, when I'm playing a recreational game, and I should firstly make sure everyone's aware that this is not something I typically do in a tournament. I might play a couple within the first match or two if I feel like we've got a very good chance. But generally, this is for recreational play. This is to get the very most out of the people around you and recreational pickleball games. So one of the ones I like to do is I like to challenge myself. How many free points can I get off my serve? Okay. The serve typically, it has been a strong point for me. But I don't believe in not practicing something just because it's a strength. I want to make sure that I continue to make my good better and my better best. As simple as that. You can write that down, Brett.
I've got it.
You've got it. Oh, good man. So yes, I look to try to figure out how many points I can get free off my serve, whether that means the return is out or in the net, or if it's just a short return and it sets up an easy third shot drive for me. I look to to serve so aggressively that I miss at least one serve every match. And if I get to the closing stages of a match and I haven't missed one, that's when I look for an ace. I try to step it up a notch. If you're beginning and you're just starting out, be realistic. It might be as simple as just trying to go through an entire match without missing a serve. One of the important things when you do these games is you keep track. Okay. Everything, the more you can measure and keep track of what you're doing, the more feedback and the more you're going to have an easy reference of your development. Okay. So that's one I like to do. One of my favorite ones is how many times can I attack off a ball that bounces in the kitchen and win the hand speed battle that generally ensues after that. That's a big one for me. I like to take risks. I'm generally not a very passive player. I probably take too many risks. My partners might agree with that. it might not be a very successful thing in the short term. So it may cost you more points than you win. And this is one where I'll typically only do it when I'm serving. So you're not risking losing a point, but taking those chances. If you fail, you are going to get feedback from what it was that cost you. Maybe it was the execution of the shot in terms of the power, spin, direction. One of those things might be off, and you'll learn when you make those mistakes. If you succeed, then you're essentially, you're going to be building confidence in your ability to do that. And that's not something that a lot of players do. Everyone seems to be pretty comfortable when a ball is nice and high. To volley, definitely go for it. But attacking a ball off the bounce, off just a dink in the kitchen, is something that's different. So that's one I like to do. That's a big one. Again, doing it on serve is a great idea. And always take a moment after you've played one of these shots to reflect on, either why it didn't work or give yourself a pat on the back. Another one that I love to do is, can I play at least one bait ball in every game? Have you heard that term before, Brett? Have you ever played a bait ball?
I have not.
Okay.
What is bait ball?
A bait ball is essentially you're throwing just a little bit of a teaser out there, some bait, hoping your opponent will bite.
Okay.
A huge part of reaction speed is anticipation. And I think we've all kind of seen or heard of the stats involved in how many times an attacker, a first attacker actually wins the point. Generally it favors the counter attacker. So a bait ball is a great way to kind of turn that tide. So I'm essentially going to be initiating an attack, but I'm going to make it come from my opponent by giving that opponent something just high enough, just long enough for him to be like, okay, yeah, this is the time, I'm going to go for it. This person may or may not, generally doesn't realize that it was my idea.
Right.
Does that make sense? The key is knowing that, firstly, you have to adhere to the normal principle of attacking, in that you always have to assume that ball's coming back. And in this case, I have to assume the counter attack is coming back. You don't just want to give them a bait ball, you want to put that ball in a position where you have a pretty good idea where the attack's going to come. So if I give someone a ball lofted to their backhand side, there's a pretty good chance that ball is going to come to my forehand, so I can be prepared for it.
Right.
Again, that's one of the games I like to play within the game, is, can I get away with at least one baited attack in every game that I play? And I start to keep count of how many I've managed to pull off against certain players. Sometimes I actually write it down. Often I'm just mentally keeping track. So that's one I want you to try next time. Next time you come down, we're going to work on your bait ball.
For me, I was going to ask you if you can give me a high bait ball up here. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
but here, that's going to be a giveaway ball. Here's my question, Morgan. One is, I love your philosophy. A lot of times, the way that I'm understanding you in regards to the game within the game is, when you were on the court, I'm not talking about tournament. The majority of pickleball players out there are recreational players who want to improve.
Yeah.
When they're on the court, I always say, don't play to win. I mean, obviously you want to, who doesn't not want to win, but in that particular game, practice, take a shot. You mentioned serving. That game, you might be practicing your hard serves. It sounds to me like you're focusing more on improving your skill set than whether you win the game or you don't win the game. Would I be
Yes. Yeah. Winning or losing is, if you build your skills, whether they be physical or mental, and your focus is on your development and the learning of the game, then winning will be a product of that. But it can't be your focus. You will limit your potential drastically if winning is your objective over development. Because remember, there's a massive amount of things that are just out of our control that influence the winning or losing of a match.
Right.
So it would be foolish of me to put all my eggs in that basket when I could be focusing on development.
What would you suggest if you were talking to our pickleball community and they really can relate, as they should, to say, when I get into a game and I want to improve, I want to play the game within the game. This particular game, I'm going to work on my serve, or I'm going to work on my third shot drop into the kitchen, or maybe my third shot drive. How many skill sets do you focus on at one game? So are you just practicing on your hard serves and a dink, or are you just taking one skill set at a time?
So typically, if you're starting out and you decide you're going to subscribe to this idea of starting to play these games within the game, then just pick one. You could look at where you feel like you're strong and where you're weak, and design a game around this. Obviously, the possibilities are endless. I tend to personally sort of compartmentalize different aspects. So I'll have something I do when my side is serving, something I do when my side is returning, and something maybe just a specialty shot that I want to work on. One of the big ones for me is, can I win a game of pickleball against relatively similar level players without my serve or third shot drive? Those are two of my sort of strengths as a player, but to a large extent, I've kind of been a one-trick pony. So it's important for me to kind of strip myself of two of my bigger strengths in the game, and see if I can't still pull out the win, knowing that returns are going to be better, and I'm not going to be able to blast through anybody at the kitchen line. So that's a big one that I tend to try to do at least once or twice every time I get out there and play recreational pickleball.
I love the advice, and for me, when I do that, because I didn't use the term "the game within the game," but I've been practicing it. A lot of times will tell my partner who I'm playing with, "Hey, just so you know, this game I'm practicing my third shot drop to their backhand. So when I miss 8 in a row, they're not rolling their eyes at me, going, 'Oh my God, can't,' right?"
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think you're on the right track there. One of the key things is that you start to write these things down. Start tracking. You can track your development if you write it down. You will forget if you don't. And the more you can make it, specific. Go with the what do they call it? SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and trackable. If your objective adhere to that SMART principle, you'll have a really good chance to develop in almost all the facets you can possibly do well before you've actually hit the tournament court. For one of the easiest ones that I think people should get out there and try is just keeping count of how many third shots you can successfully do in a row. And you can count success as, the ball is bouncing in before the returner or, person at the kitchen line, or if they have been forced to hit a difficult low volley, you can count that on.
I love it. Before we go, can we, the audience has some questions for you. Do you mind if I ask you a couple quick ones?
Fire away.
One audience member says, as a mid-level player, I often become aware of improvements in my game. Do pro players like you find less aha moments as you've gained your expertise?
Yes, that is absolutely true. As much as I would love to go back and experience those, I get it now. This is why you're supposed to do this. Those moments do certainly become the few and far between. And I fall into the trap very often of seeking them so much that I forget to play the game. I coach and I love coaching. Taking off that coach's hat when I'm playing is incredibly difficult. I'm always looking at, what this game is teaching me that I can teach to someone else. And I sometimes forget the role I'm supposed to be doing for my partner, because I'm too kind of entranced with, wow, that just happened. Why did it happen? What do I have to take away from this? Can I just go
Absolutely.
right down?
I get another guest says, when you're working on your game and playing socially, do you find that it bothers your partner if they are more worried about winning if you are struggling to learn something new? And this is something I kind of touched upon in regards to why I tell my partner what's going on. Sometimes if I have a partner I'm playing with that is just all about winning, we're not a good match.
No, yeah. I find those players somewhat tricky, and it gets to me because I feel like it's generally quite short-sighted. If you're, it's putting the cart before the horse. If your main focus, and we touched on this before, if your main focus is just the winning of the match versus your development, and if you've got a partner next to you that is in that camp, they're probably not right for you.
And the last comment I want to share with you, Morgan, before we go, is by a gentleman we all know by the Golden Boy.
Oh God.
Yeah, right. Oh my God, here we go.
What are we gonna do?
The Golden Boy says, Morgan Evans is a great pickleball coach, and let's be honest, who doesn't love a great coach with an Aussie accent? So that's the love from the Golden Boy.
Golden Boy.
Golden Boy. Morgan, thank you for Thank you for everything that you do for our pickleball community. Thank you for being a great representative, a great coach, a great player, and you inspire so many of us out there. And thank you for your wisdom today. We're hoping that we can get you back in the near future and future discussions. You're just a wealth of knowledge.
I appreciate it, Brett. And certainly I'll be back whenever you need me. Thank you so much for doing this. We'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. That was a great conversation with Morgan Evans. I love Morgan Evans. I met him as a player, saw him as a player beforehand. And I've actually taken lessons from Morgan. So he is a fantastic coach. I mean, talk about aha moments. I've gotten so many aha moments just from watching him and then taking lessons from him. And what he does for us is so much appreciated. Our next speaker is going to be Steve Taylor from Digital Spatula. And we love Steve. Morgan's back on. At least I can see Morgan. Okay. So I wanted to thank everyone for the questions that you're putting into the chat box. And we're going to be giving away a lot of prizes today, a lot of paddles, and just a lot of good stuff. A lot of good information is going to be shared today. So look forward to seeing your comments and seeing your questions. This is day 2 of the Pickleball Summit. And I'm starting to hear some good news in regards to this pandemic. I'm starting to hear that they're starting to open up businesses and some parks in certain areas, and it looks like we're getting back out there. And so I just wanted to give my prayers and thoughts to everyone out there that's going through this pandemic. It's been tough, but the pickleball community has been hanging in there. We've been playing a lot of pickleball online, a lot of pickleball in our garages, and just persevering through it. So I would love to hear if you have a chance to comment on the screen there or on your chat. What are you doing to keep your pickleball skills going? I would love to hear what you're doing. Steve.
Hey.
It is good to see you. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. A little trouble with my phone dialing in, so I'm dialing in my computer. Ignore the background. It's pretty messy.
We can't even see the background. We're just looking at you.
I'm sorry.
So, Steve, let's get into it. So what is your background? If you can share with the audience, what's your background and how did you get involved in pickleball?
Well, I've been a video producer for many, many years, started in high school and worked in corporate world, commercials, all that kind of stuff. And got into motion graphics and just everything to do with producing videos. And I got a call from a friend of mine a client who would produce some corporate stuff. And he said he was running a sponsored YouTube channel called the Pickleball channel. And it was Rusty House. And probably almost everybody in our audience knows who Rusty is.
Yes.
And Rusty said, hey, we're looking for another producer to come on board to shoot, edit, graphics, all that stuff. And I said, what for? He goes, pickleball. I'm like, what is that? He goes, well, come up to Glendale and play. So I did. Fell in love with the sport like most people, got addicted immediately and said, I'm in. And so I worked with Rusty for about 3.5 years, shooting video, producing videos, going to all the big tournaments, and really just kind of embedding myself in the whole entire sport. Created a lot of great relationships. And then about a year and a half ago, I had a chance to kind of just go on my own and create some of my own projects. And so that's when I left Pickleball Channel and kind of started my own thing. I've had some great opportunities to work with large tournaments like USAPA Nationals. I was their official videographer and photographer for the last couple of years at Indian Wells. I do commercials, training videos. The latest thing is Coach Me Pickleball that I have with Morgan Evans, and that's an online teaching thing. So anyways, it's been an amazing run, and it's just starting, and it's really fun to be able to use my skill set in media all together with my love of pickleball to kind of combine the two.
You know, media is, at least when I hear media, there's such a broad term. How is media used specifically in pickleball?
Well, there's been a lot of uses for it up to now. I mean, we're starting to see even more use in that now with this whole virus lockdown thing. But, you know, there's teaching videos, obviously, on YouTube, Jordan Briones and Mark Renison, a lot of free videos. There are subscription services like Coach Me Pickleball, Mark Renison's Pickleball Lab. There are other resources. Pickleball Channel has been around for the longest time, producing amazing teaching videos, personal interest stories, matches. You can see so many great matches over the last 4 or 5 years on Pickleball Channel on their YouTube page. And now they're starting to do, now there's starting to be a lot of new kinds of video. The thing we're doing here, these online summits are incredible things for people to join in and learn. And we can bring in all these resources so easily using the tools that we have nowadays, like Zoom and YouTube and Facebook Live. Of course, streaming has really taken off with people's phones and an internet connection. That's all you need to stream a match. Way back when, say 3 or 4 years ago, John Germstad was kind of leading the way with his iPad and streaming and commentary. He was the only guy. Yeah. But now now everybody's streaming. You pretty much can see almost any pro match online one way or another with streaming. Scott Golden, I mean, I could name them all, Gizmo, you name it. There's all these great guys out there that are spending the time to shoot a match, commentate on it, and really allowing us to have access to incredible pro matches happening all over the world. And now we're starting to see a really high level of multi-camera streaming matches. That would be more like TV. Rusty House at Pickleball Channel about 2.5 years ago did the US Open with streaming, and I was on the crew for that, and that was kind of groundbreaking for multi-camera live streaming. Before that, it was always shoot the match with a bunch of cameras and edit it later, and there was always that delay, and people didn't really want to see the videos, you know, a week later or whatever. So now we're seeing them in real time with great graphics. Carl Schmidt with Pro Pickleball, me with Digital Spatula. We're getting hired by these larger tournaments to create streaming. And what that does is it allows the tournaments to have a new audience. You know what I mean? Not just the 500 or 1,000 people that are playing at the tournament. And with a new audience, with a much, much larger audience, that allows the tournaments to make more money and therefore pay more money out to the pros. If you look at the PPA Tour, their purses are way larger than any purses we've ever seen over time. I mean, they have a $150,000 tournament in Vegas later in the year. And that money is mainly there available because the sponsors get value out of their dollars, and those value is eyeballs, right? And so media is really the only super effective tool for tournaments and for sponsors to get value for their dollars. And so we need streaming to grow the sport, basically, to pay the purses. And the purse money comes from the sponsors who are getting value from the streaming. So it's kind of like a ecosystem, you know, with viewers, sponsor dollars, streaming, and purse money.
Right. I love the idea of, and the pros deserve the purses. I mean, there's great players.
Yeah.
I vote for paying us amateurs as well. So if I get a vote, throw some money our way.
I've got $5 for you in my pocket. I'll give it to you next time I see you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We've seen a lot of streaming on CBS, Sports Center, ESPN. Do you see more of pickleball becoming an outlet on some of these major networks promoting the sport?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things going on there. There's the streaming on the internet, which is one thing. That's like an ESPN3 type of thing. And then there's broadcast, like a CBS Sports. Up to now, the U.S. Open with CBS Sports and Nationals with ESPN3, their first year at Indian Wells, they actually bought the time. So they paid for that exposure. It's not like the networks came and said, we want to cover pickleball. It's awesome. Pickleball is still small on a relative scale with 3.5 to 4 million players. There's not the ecosystem there to support the viewership. So right now it's gonna be really hard to get the networks to find interest. People say, well, they're showing cornhole on TV. Well, cornhole's buying that time also. So they're paying for that time. It's not like ESPN's like, oh, we love cornhole, we got to show it. No, ESPN is being paid for that time. So we have to grow the sport before these networks say that we need to cover that on our dime. The networks say we'll cover it on our costs because their sponsors will get value out of it. Eyeballs. Once again, it's all about eyeballs. The dollars follow the eyeballs. And so we don't know the numbers that watch the CBS Sports US Open pieces. And they couldn't buy a whole lot of time. Those are actually little pieces of matches, like a game here, a half a game here. So it wasn't even the whole match usually because they couldn't, it was so expensive. The truck, you have to hire a CBS approved truck. And that truck is something like $10,000 to $15,000 a day with all the gear.
Wow, okay.
So there's a serious expense there. And so they have to get the value out of that expense. The tournaments do. And I'm hoping that the sport, I'm sure it'll get there. That where the networks will want to cover it. The other question is pickleball even watchable by a non-player?
Right.
You know, I mean, are they willing to watch 30 dinks between Simone and Sarah? I mean, they're amazing. As players, we can really appreciate that. But can the non-player appreciate the sport? Singles is probably more watchable because it's a lot more action and there's not that kind of getting into a dink battle. So we got to ask the question, will pickleball ever be a big sport on TV because is it viewable by non-players? Until it is, then it won't be. I mean, I don't go play baseball, but I love watching baseball on TV. I don't play football, but I love watching NFL. But pickleball, I'm not sure. The jury's still out on that.
Well, my last question to you, Steve, before we go is, which kind of relates to your comment that you made in regards to would the average person out there watch a long rally between great professional players? We as pickleball players love to watch that because it's just great to watch. But a lot of the audience out there has a short attention span. You're talking about maybe singles being more of a choice for a television or a media type watch from the average audience member. Two questions is, do you think that rally scoring might change the game of pickleball that will allow more of a media coverage? And where do you foresee pickleball in the next 5 years with media as a tool?
Yeah, it's not the scoring that keeps the networks from being interested. It's the viewers. Yes, there is the aspect of how long a match lasts. You know, with pickleball, a match could last anywhere from 10 minutes to 25, 30 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the rally scoring does create a more fixed length, but that's not what's going to really bring the viewer. that will help, but that's not the main issue. The main issue is, can I watch it without knowing the game? We're pickleballers. We know the game. We can see the subtleties. We know how hard it is to hit a perfect dink, a perfect third shot drop, and how to stay there at the kitchen stuff. And without knowing the game, is it really that interesting? Because there's a lot of those strategies that go into play. So the jury's still out, but I'm doubtful that pickleball will ever gain big time mainstream coverage, just even no matter how many of the viewers, just because non-players won't really like watching the game. But I hope I'm wrong. Don't get me wrong.
I hope you're wrong too. I hope you're wrong too.
But I am concerned for that. But in the meantime, all of us pickleball players, as the sport grows, we get to see a lot of it on the internet, and on great things like this. As far as the next 5 years, I think we're going to see a much higher level of production quality from the tournaments. I think the PPA is kind of leading the way in having multi-camera streaming with high-end production values because they have the budgets, and they have the budgets because they have the viewership, and they have the sponsors that are willing to put the money in and take the risk to get that viewership. And they also have the players. They have the best players in the world. And when there's a lot of money on the line, it makes great drama for us. You know what I mean? So there's all the pieces that are there for the PPA and the APP to really do well by using streaming. And there's, quite a few companies out there that are doing streaming really, really well. There's new technologies. We are developing our philosophies of production, not just the picture quality, but what the content is. If you look at Pro Pickleball and Carl Schmidt, he had me produce a little video piece on literally every team that are in the medal matches, and those aired right before they played. So as the announcer, in this case, it was Mark Renison at the PPA Mesa event. As he's preparing the viewers for the upcoming match, we're seeing highlight footage from that day. So this is a new approach, and it's going to take those new approaches to create a really quality piece of content. And so we're going to be obviously taking a look at broadcast TV and saying, what can we bring from there to us? What can we do? We already have the skill sets. What philosophies, what strategies can we bring from broadcast TV into our streaming? I think we'll see certainly more content made for the internet. I mean, we're forced into it now. The Pickleball Summit, the Mindshift Summit, there are so many great pieces of content on the internet now, and it's only going to get better. The bar is going to go up and up and up. That includes like better graphics, correct audio, better camera angles, better gear, better hosts on camera, better scripting. I hope I'm helping raise that bar just from my experience in the broadcast and the corporate world. But I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people coming into the industry that want to raise the bar. Nationals had streaming all day, every day, the entire 9 days of Nationals. That's an amazing access to content, all those matches being played on the center court. So people really got to see as much pickleball as they could ever want, ever. And so, those kind of things are really growing. And I'm really, really excited about the potential for media and sports. Hey, one of the things I wanted to talk about was some of the new content that's coming out. Look at Jigsaw Health's I Want to Dink with Someone. Did you see that video?
Not yet.
Oh,
yeah. I think I might have it. Okay, yeah.
So that's an indicative of a company that's creative and using technologies that are in our everyday hands. Everybody on that video shot their little pieces of video on an iPhone and sent them in to Patrick Sullivan, who's the CEO of Jigsaw Health. He is an amazingly creative person, and he went and edited all those things into a song that they wrote. So what we're seeing is simple technologies in the hands of creative people creating really, really cool creative content that's just going to make the media world a lot funner for us pickleball players. Randy Coleman's got this new pickleball update thing that's kind of a takeoff on Saturday Night Live. I think we're going to see more and more of that. And I think this coronavirus time is kind of giving people an opportunity and a thumbs up to say, try some things. Some things won't work, of course. They don't work on broadcast TV either. But try some things. Let's see what sticks. And we'll see some great content, some great teaching, some great entertainment, comedy, even serious stuff. If you look at the video that Morgan and I did with the COVID-19 thing, there's a chance for using media to bring messages of hope, fun comedy things. It's just a broad variety of uses for media that can enrich our lives as pickleball players on the internet alone.
Well, thank you for everything that you do. We are going to be watching that video that you helped put together, the We Will Survive video.
Cool.
Great video. If you see us on the course, or if a player sees you on the court with your camera, is it okay if they walk up to you and tell you, hey, just make sure you just shoot me on my best side, my right side, or my left side?
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things is just being on the courts, walking around the tournaments, capturing people, talking to people. The pickleball community is the best community in the world. And some of my greatest friends, some of my greatest friends are spread all around the country in pickleball. And I love going to tournaments and seeing them. I'm meeting new people, and the pros are the best players in the world. They've got amazing skill sets, and I love capturing that stuff. So yeah, please come up and say hi. I appreciate the chance to interact, and tell me what new ideas you might have. Maybe we can create something new. I
appreciate your time. We're going to go into the We Will Survive video next. Thank you, Steve.
Great.
Talk to you soon. That was Steve Taylor, who's done some incredible work, especially with the We Will Survive video. We're going to be watching that in just a moment. Just great. You know, he talks about pickleball players. Pickleball players, you've always heard me say, nicest people in the world. Just love them. And here we go into the video. Take a look at this.
When the dust has cleared and the streets are filled, we'll take a moment for victory and cheer, for the time we chose to stand up and sit 6 feet apart here. If we unite and fight, we'll learn to survive this contamination, this abomination. I don't know why. Why here? Why now? Now's not to ask the reason why. Our job now is just to survive. The rock won't save you, and I can't tell you where's the toilet paper to buy or where's the bunker to hide. For a little while longer, to ponder, to second guess your choices, or voices to tune into, or words to subscribe to, memes to share and post to like. And if you're in the market for a silver lining, then this is the best I can give you. This is that time, that glorious sense that every man, woman, and child unites for a minute to fight to survive on the same side for the same reason. To raise our hands and flip the bird at a hell of a flu season. The fear could unite us, or it could divide us. Now is not the time. We don't all have much time to rise above for the ones who care and the ones you love. Now's the time for your favorite wine, that delicious Cab Sav, or that Pinot Grigio that just calls your name. Enjoy the couch, learn to cook, remember the games you played when all your friends came and stayed. Somewhere along the lines we forgot how to talk. The art of conversation became a blur of emojis, not the celebration it once was, not the glue that entertained us, or the fuel that sustained us. We've got this. This is not impossible, it's just invisible. And if the hardest part is to be advised to wait and hide, then enjoy the ones you love, stay inside, and we will survive.
Dear friends, I know a lot of people have been affected by the coronavirus, but I also know that a lot more people want to help. As we began to see the impact this video was having on people, we realized that this would be a good time to see if we could help even further. So with a great collaboration from Coach Me Pickleball, our amazing sponsor Selkirk Sport, and our friends at the Pickleball Rocks Clothing and Equipment Company, we're making available the We Will Survive shirts with 100% of the proceeds going to the CDP COVID-19 Response Fund. The Center for Disaster Philanthropy supports preparedness, containment, response, and recovery activities for those affected and the responders. Please help us help those that need it now. Stay safe, everybody.
some giveaways. Let me just get ready. So just start video. Okay, I love that video. It just touches my heart. I always wanted to say thank you to Morgan and Steve for putting that together. We are going to be giving giveaways, ladies and gentlemen. And listen, just give you a hint in regards to who the winners are. We're going to be sharing those in a moment. We're giving away a lot of stuff. If you are active in the chat, if you're making comments, those are the people that we're actually pulling from. We're getting literally hundreds and hundreds of people that are active in the chats. We're pulling names. So if you want to be have a great chance of winning a great prize, make a comment. How are we doing? Is this information valuable to you? Are you having a good time? So we're just going to go waiting for the video, the gifts. We're going to give away some gifts here. The first gift, and the winner is Robin Morris. Congratulations, Robin. You have won a 3-month subscription to Coach Me Pickleball. That's a $30 value. I am a member of Coach Me Pickleball. I've been coached and trained by Morgan Evans. His information is like walking down the field and finding one gold nugget after another. You're going to love it. Congratulations, Robin. You're the winner of this 3-month subscription, a $30 value. Way to go. Our next winner, Gary Swindler. Congratulations, Gary. You have won a Pickleball Rocks gift certificate. It's a $20 value. We're going to make sure that we get that over to you. So Gary, enjoy that. Pickleball Rocks was generous in their donation. And guess what, Michelle? Michelle Miller, you won a Selkirk Epic Prime paddle. Great paddle. It's an $80 value. Michelle, way to go. You're the winner today. And Joan Burke Kelly, you got the VitaFlow Sports Pro Pack. I've got a bunch of those with me here. I use it every day. I got a left knee that is just killing me. And the last couple of days, I've just been too lazy to actually spray it on. And finally, I said, you know what, I just got to reach into the cabinet. And now I can tell you the pain has gone away. Great gift, $100 value by VitaFlow Sports. Congratulations, Joan. You're the winner of that. And okay, Pickleball Dave, love it. You are the winner of a men's shirt. If you go to the website, www.youreverything Pickleball store, they have a, you'll see the category of men's shirts. These are custom shirts, cotton, comfort shirts that actually stained into the material is everything pickleball related. Recently, you might have seen Byron Fresso wearing it. So go pick whatever shirt and whatever color or size. It's yours. It's a $30 value. Congratulations, Pickleball Dave. And I think that covers our winners for this section. We have 2 more giveaways today, so make sure that you are active in the chat. Ask some questions. Make some comments. So we're going to jump into a couple other videos. We're going to be listening to next Dave Dinwiddie, who talks a little bit about that CBD, really. The gift that one of our members just won, the Pro Pack. He's going to be talking about that. You know what? I was always skeptical, learning my English. Does it really work? I thought, because we're hearing about CBD everywhere. This is a product that we just want to, it's a short video. We want you to introduce it to you because it works. I've been at tournaments where players are coming up to the booth and they have a bad shoulder. And here we go. Let's jump into it. My next guest is the CEO and co-founder of VitaFlow Sport. We met on the pickleball courts. He's one of the co-founders of the Pickleball Summit. We're going to be talking about a product that is a game changer for you players that are playing pickleball, that have any type of soreness. Dave, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hey, Brad, I'm doing great, man. This has been a lot of fun putting this whole thing together and meeting a lot of pickleball players out there that are getting some great information. Man, some of the speakers have been amazing.
They have been amazing. So your product is CBD. How did you get into pickleball, and how does CBD become a game changer for pickleball players?
Hey, great question. So we started a company that makes wellness products based from CBD. And CBD stands for cannabidiol, which is a cannabinoid from the hemp plant. And so the hemp plant is extracted, and there's 100+ cannabinoids. CBD is just the biggest and most popular one. So that being said, that's what CBD stands for. We started producing products that we were tailoring to the golf market. And so we had created some pain relief and, range of motion products for the golf market. We're selling successfully there into pro shops and so forth. And one of our sales reps in the golf space is also a pickleball player and a pickleball instructor. And he said, hey, you ought to check out this sport. It's really growing. There's a lot of cool people in it. Everybody's very active, and I think they could all use your product. I said, well, where do I find it? I had not really heard about it previously. So the Nationals tournament in Indian Wells was right around the corner. So I drove out to that and walked in, and I'm like, wow, I think we found our people. So watching all the tournaments and seeing the energy there was cool. I grew up playing beach volleyball, and that's a very social and fun sport, and I've now found pickleball to be the same. So my business partner and I have gotten addicted to it. We just got introduced in November, and we're both loving it as well. So that's what brought us to pickleball, and from there, we introduced our product. And, everybody's active. You're either sore, you're stretching too much, you're running too much, maybe you twist an ankle, and we've got some different products that really can help with that.
Well, I remember meeting you for the very first time on the pickleball course. If you were an active pickleball player like me, a lot of players out there are playing 3-4 times a week. Myself, I'm out there 6-7 days a week practicing and drilling. And a lot of my body is sore afterwards. And even during a tournament, when I'm trying to get to the next game, I've got some sore parts going on. I remember meeting you at a tournament. I had a sore arm. You put something together for me that you called the Power Pack, and I believe it was like a spray and a cream. Can you kind of share with our audience what that is and how that works?
Sure. So in this CBD craze, we'll call it, a lot of people have taken CBD and just stuck it into some sort of product, whether it be a cream or a moisturizer or all kinds of crazy stuff. Well, that doesn't really get the CBD to the place it needs to be. So we formulated both a cream and a spray that actually acts as a carrier for the CBD to get it into your muscle tissue. And what the CBD is doing is really helping that area reduce the inflammation. And it allows your body to actively heal itself. So what you experienced, you had been playing, you probably had gotten tight. And so the spray helped reduce that inflammation, helped reduce also any pain going on, and it got you through that day. And then continued usage continues to reduce the inflammation and just put in some really good, supplemental, the cannabinoids are helping the body heal itself. So that's what we did for you. Our cream, which I'll show you right here, is called Recover. And then our spray is called Rescue. And that's the Pro Pack you were talking about that we use. So some people like the spray, some like the cream, some like both. The cream itself has no smell. We found in working with golfers and now in this space, so many people appreciate not smelling like the other products that are mentholy or pepperminty or whatever it may be. And so our cream has no scent. Our spray has a little bit of a scent, but it's really nice. I call it kind of a sweet, spicy smell. So a lot of people then ask us, that's great. I put that on, it's helping. Can I do anything else? And one of the things we've been recommending to people is to look at taking CBD hemp extract products internally. And what that's doing is letting your body really put the cannabinoids to use in areas that you need it. We've just found a lot of people, the little aches and pains you might have suddenly go away. And so we've got 2 products in that category. One is a soft gel, easy to swallow. It's a very small pill. People love that product. And we also have a tincture, which is like an oil dropper where people can take that and drop it under their tongue and let it soak in. And so that actually gets the CBD and the cannabinoids into your body so they can work wherever that may be. And, you know, some people have asked us, will it help with my sleep? Will it help with my anxiety? And the answer, it all depends on individual people, but usually the answer is yes. So we offer a money-back guarantee on all of our products and are happy to, you know, take care of people, make sure that the product works for them. We want customers to be happy.
Well, I learned this, I don't want to say I learned this the hard way, but I learned a lesson that CBD is not all the same. All CBD products are not the same. And I'll tell you what happened. I was in Casa Grande, Arizona, right before they started canceling all the other tournaments. And I was staying at an RV resort, and one of the players was literally hunched over. He was playing, but he had such a bad back issue. After the match, I asked him, I said, let me give you some spray and a little bit of a cream. Would you be willing to try it? And he says, sure, I'll try it. And so I went over to his camper where he was at after the match, gave him a little spray, put the cream on, and then left. About 2 hours later, he's knocking at my door saying, you know what, can I buy this product? And I ended up giving him what I had. He was from Canada. And he says, I've tried everything. After you put it on me, I went to the grocery store and I didn't feel pain for the first time in a long time.
That's
and
awesome.
that told me this is a fantastic product that everyone needs to know about, especially us pickleball players who know what ache and pain is about. So thank you for bringing that product to the pickleball community.
No, you know what? And we wanted to bring, my partner and I, we feel like our names on this product, and we were only going to put out product that works. And that was our end goal, was we want a product that works, that can actually change people's lives and make them feel better, make them live a more active and fun lifestyle. And so these products are doing that. We're super happy about that. So yeah, and there's so many great stories in the pickleball world of experience with it. So yeah, it's a product that works. Like I said, we have a money back guarantee. You can see all of our products at vitaflowsport.com. And you know, I wanted to offer, Brett, to all the Summit listeners and watchers out there a discount. And if they use the coupon code SUMMIT20, they'll get a 20% discount, which is a bigger discount than we really ever do. But because we're part of the Summit and we love the pickleball community, we want to do something special for them.
Well, thank you for that gift. I urge all pickleball players out there, check out the website, check out the product. It works. Thank you, Dave, for being with us today.
I do have one more thing for you. Tomorrow, we are going to be part of the raffle that you guys are giving away gifts, and we're going to be giving away a new Titan Pro massage gun that we just started carrying on the website as well. And let me tell you, you use this after a day on the pickleball court, it's amazing. And you can add that to your regimen with our cream or the spray. It's a game changer. So watch for this tomorrow. Come back tomorrow if you're watching the Summit live. We'll be giving away one of these live. It's a $200 value. It's going to be on the Summit tomorrow. I can't wait to see who gets it and know that they're going to get some real good love using this at home.
We'll announce it tomorrow. Thank you, Dave. Thank you for VitaFlow. Thank you for everything that you guys do.
You are welcome, man. Thank you for what you've been doing on the Summit. It's been great.
Thank you. We'll see you on the courts.
Perfect.
Hi, everyone. This is Brett Noel from Coachable Pickleball. For those of you that have been playing, whether it's a short period of time or for many years, a question that we get asked a lot of times is, how does someone go from an amateur status to a professional status? What skill sets, maybe what mindsets, what do they do physically and mentally in order to journey along that path? Today, I'm going to be sharing with you a dynamic lady, Cassandra Gerke, who is a professional pickleball player. She's going to share with you, share with us, a little bit about her journey, her mental and physical goal sets and what she does, some of her skill sets, her mindset, just a bunch of jewels she's going to share with us in regards to how she went from an amateur status to a professional pickleball player. So, Cassandra, good to see you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the introduction and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. My first question that I ask a lot of players is, how did you get into pickleball?
So I got into pickleball. I played volleyball, basketball, and softball in high school.
Okay.
And at the gym shooting baskets, and a group of 3 players came over and asked me if I would be the 4th. And no offense to anyone who's older, but they were all senior players, probably around 60, 70 years old. And I said, well, I played in high school, but I don't remember how to play. I went on the court, got my butt kicked pretty handily and that night I went home and purchased a paddle and never looked back.
And never like. Now, are you a full-time pickleball player now?
Yes, I am a full-time pickleball player now.
And at what point from the moment that you started playing pickleball did you make the decision that, you know what, I love this sport, I want this to be a big part of my life, I want to devote myself to this sport? At what point in that journey did you make that commitment?
Sure. So I was a physical education teacher from middle school, high school. Actually, absolutely loved my job. Pickleball, I actually introduced into the school system at where I was working, and I started becoming super competitive. I entered my first 3-5 tournament, my very first tournament, and was successful. And you know how when you're successful at something, it becomes very addicting. And
Yes, yeah.
Started playing more tournaments, and then it was at the point where I was getting up at 5 a.m. to get my workout in. I was going to teach. Then I was coaching after I was done teaching basketball. And then I would drive about an hour to go play pickleball with some of the higher level players in my area. So I was getting home around 11 p.m. each night, leaving the house at 5 a.m. and flying out to each tournament Friday night late, coming back, late Sunday night or early Monday morning, doing it all over again. I eventually just kind of had a chat with my mom and said, you know what, I'm having to say no to all these super awesome opportunities because I'm working right now. And she said, you know what, pull the trigger. And if anything goes wrong, I got your back. So it was great to have.
Oh, wow.
In this, and you know what, I pulled the trigger 2 years ago and have not looked back. It's been super awesome, the opportunities that are popping up in pickleball.
Well, congratulations for making that commitment. That takes a lot of courage. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't recall who it said it, but I remember that if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
And that's literally what I feel like I'm living by right now. I have to pinch myself sometimes because I'm like, this is my life. I can't believe this is my life and how awesome it is. Oh,
that is fantastic. Now you're probably like me, is I'm a big tournament player myself, and we're both looking, if you're probably like me, is we're looking at the calendar. Okay, in May, what tournaments are there that I'm going to go to? And then I got my whole year of tournaments planned out. Are you very similar like that?
Well, you had your whole year of tournaments.
Yeah, yes, I did.
I'm crossing one more off.
That's right.
Absolutely. I had, this year planned out. Obviously, we've had some circumstances pop up where we've, are in limbo now of what's going on. And, but yeah, I mean, I had 2020 all planned out, and, I'm sure you are too, starting to look at 2021, some of these tournaments popping up now. So.
Well, I'm kind of ultra positive in regards. So I'm kind of looking at tournaments that might be in May or June. Okay. So I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed to see what can pop up. I might have to go to a different state that's open for those tournaments, but we'll see how that goes. Being a tournament player, what are some of the preparing for a tournament, mentally and physically, what are some of the key pearls of wisdom that you might give to players that are maybe tournament players, even for recreational players that want to win more games? And you and I do a lot of clinics and teaching, and a lot of times we'll get students, they might not necessarily want to win a tournament, but they want to beat their friends that are always beating them on the courts. So how do you prepare mentally and physically for a tournament to win as much as you're winning?
So physically, I think is easier than mental. So I'll start with physical. So I sound like just like you, where it's almost back-to-back events. You know, I'm home for the week, and then I'm out to another tournament right away. So what I try to do when I come back during that week is work on a few key concepts of maybe some of the things I struggle with at the previous tournament that weekend. If we were trying to execute, forehand dinking to our opponents, and I was struggling with that for whatever reason, I try to come home and work on that during the week before I head off to the next event. And, same thing on the weekend. Filming and watching video and replaying video is oh my gosh, I did that like 7 times in a row and didn't even notice.
Right.
Making that error. And so physically I try to get in, a few, maybe 2 days a week, because I'm usually teaching in between, to work on some of those things in between tournaments.
Okay.
I think is tougher for everybody, in my opinion. When I first started out, I was always very nervous, very anxious. I would, get very like, oh my gosh, tournament day, and it was like a happy, excited.
Right.
You know how that first match goes, where you get out there and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't even, execute this return that I know I've hit 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And
so I know how to play. Yeah, that's exactly.
What's going on here? But mentally, I started listening to podcasts or even Audible books the morning before I play. So that has helped me out the day of the tournament, put my headphones on, and as I'm getting ready, instead of sitting there going, oh my gosh, tournament day, and having all these inner thoughts that aren't helpful, I try to listen to basically thoughts that tell me I am super awesome and that I'm going to kill today. So one of my favorites is Relentless by Tim S. Grover, and that's on Audible. So that's a good one to kind of check out.
Relentless. I'll have to check that one out. What about from we talked a little bit about the physical and the mental. Is there a certain nutrition guideline that you follow maybe a day or two before the tournament or the day of the tournament, or what's your regimen in regards to feeding your body?
Sure. So one thing I make sure that I take every single day are electrolyte supplements. The packets that I put in my water bottle, because when you get to somewhere hot, California, Arizona, and I'm from the Midwest, so I'm not necessarily used to playing in the heat all the time, the sweat just pushes out of me faster than I can. So, making sure that I stock up on electrolytes and lots of protein shakes. I put protein yogurt, cheese sticks, eggs, and then, I eat pizza.
Yeah.
But so try to stay with that, and that helps me on tournament days for sure.
Oh, wonderful. For 2020, I know I was in Arizona just a few weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, ready to hit another 3 or 4 tournaments. I had the rest of the year planned, and then all of a sudden it's cancel. What are your plans for the rest of this year, 2020, and even maybe into 2021? Are you hoping to get into more tournaments, or are you going to be focused more on the training and developing skill set? If we can't get on the courts, what's your plan for you?
So I had a bunch of plans and goals that I actually just had to rewrite last week because of, what's happening, and hit some of these, coming into 2020 now. But
Yeah.
big goals was to be in the finals of a large pro event sometime this year. I've been on the bronze medal stand for far too long, and I would like a notch higher. The other thing, one of my goals was to help grow youth in the sport. Coming from physical education, I taught middle school, high school, and I miss the kids. And I think it has a very large growth, for us teachers getting into the youth because, unlike tennis or another racket sport that might be a little bit more difficult to catch on to, you can teach a kid how to play pickleball in 30 minutes, or anybody.
Right.
Instant gratification factor that many kids have nowadays, getting pickleball out there and getting them, on the courts, being social and active is a huge goal of mine. So hoping to see some.
It's a great idea. I love to see more of our youth coming back into the sport or get into the sport. In closing, for someone that wanted to really accelerate their game, not so much necessarily become a professional pickleball player, but really wanted to accelerate, what's maybe one or two thoughts that you would give them and say, okay, this is what I recommend that you do if you really want to become a much better pickleball player?
First thing I would say is find a coach. Find someone who is around your area who's either a higher level or is, a certified teacher or even a professional in your area that can help you with some of the things that might take your game to the next level. And that was a huge help for me, learning from others and having an open mind. And the second thing I would say is, keep an open mind and be open to new ideas, and don't keep this tunnel vision of, I need to play pickleball or this is if someone gives you a new idea, be like a sponge and kind of soak it up and just stay positive. And,
And I love what you just said, because it's really about adapting the change as well, because pickleball, as you've probably seen it, has changed a lot. Mm-hmm. The way we do it or how our strokes were. I remember it wasn't too far back that the third shot was always a drop, and we would say, oh my God, don't drive it. And now we start to see a big shift in the mindset of that third shot, as well as other aspects of the game as well. So that, I love the idea of just absorbing new ideas and being open for growth.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Totally agree with that. I think that is one of the things that has helped me excel quickly, because, I am coachable is the best word. And of course, a coach, or a teacher loves when someone is coachable, meaning that they aren't well, or having excuses,
Right. And I'm sure as you have experience with many of your students, the greatest high that I see among coaches is when you teach them something, maybe a new skill or a new idea or a new approach, and you can see their eyes light up, like, and when they execute it, like, oh my God, this is well, and as that, I can feel that from you in regards to the giving of yourself to your players and to people that just want to improve their game.
Yeah, there's no better feeling than getting that aha moment when they look at you and
well,
you're a teacher, what that feels.
Last question. I'm not going to ask you who your favorite person to play with is, because I'm sure there's several of them. But what's one of the players that you enjoy competing against, that you like to have them on the opposite side of the net, that that this is going to be a tough match? Is there a player or two that you would like to mention?
So I actually like to play against Dave Weinbach, because he was my very first, coach or teacher. So when I can get a ball past him, it's very exciting for me. And just the joking and the messing around kind of factor is always really fun.
We love Dave, and we love the way he plays. So we hope to see you on the courts in the near future. Congratulations on your professional status as a pickleball player. That is a major accomplishment for any player. And thank you for sharing these golden nuggets with us today. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Right.
Thank you, Cassandra. We have next coming up a couple great speakers coming up. We have Nicole Hopson from Pickleball Registry coming up. We have DG Howard coming up. Just a lot of great speakers coming up. Other giveaways. We got a couple more giveaways that we're going to share with you. So amazing day so far. I wanted to thank all the people that are actively in the chat, asking questions, getting involved, giving their support. I'm excited about our next speaker, Nicole Hopson from the Pickleball Registry. We're going to learn about her, a little bit more about the Pickleball Registry, what it's all about, talking about coaching, what type of coach that you want, and so forth. So that's going to be great news. Hopefully everyone's out there having a great day. I am right now in Bend, Oregon, and it's cold. I'm from California normally. So in California, we only have two weathers, summer and summer light. So dealing with this frost or this cold, I'm trying to deal with it. So how's the temperature where you're at? Let me see here. I'm trying to get on here. Let me see. I'm turning the camera on now. Let me see. I'm on. Switch. Hey, Nicole.
Hey, Brett. How's it going?
I am doing well. It's great to see you.
Hey,
How's the
good to see
weather?
you.
How's the weather where you're at?
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. Usually I'm in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, because that's where PPR is located. But I'm in Nashville, Tennessee right now, social distancing, and it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. So I'm outside on my back deck and just kind of actually had to stop my husband from mowing the grass so I could do this out here.
I know I had to kick my wife out of the house here so that we can have some quiet time together. This is a live interview, and I'm excited to see you. The last time that I saw you was, I think it was at Nationals.
Yep. I believe I was your referee.
You were my referee. I didn't recognize you when you first came on. And as I try and tell all the referees, as I told you, you don't need to look at my feet work near the kitchen. I never have foot violations, but you didn't go for that. So it was a great match, and it was great seeing you. Today we're going to be talking about PPR. But before we get started, can you share with our audience members a little bit about your background, sports background, when you got involved in pickleball, how long you've been playing, how you got involved with PPR, and what is PPR? Yeah. We'll get into all that.
Okay. So I've been playing sports ever since I can remember. Probably about 4 years old, I started playing softball. Growing up here in Tennessee, my cousins in East Tennessee, I spent my summers on the farm, and they're all Bubbas. So they're all 6'2" is the shortest one. And any sport they played, I had to play it. I was the only girl that was there. So I've played softball and soccer and volleyball and swam, and pretty much, if there's a sport, I know how to play it. And I actually just tennis. I've come from a tennis background as well. I actually discovered pickleball in middle school here in a small town in Tennessee, Smyrna, Tennessee, which is a kind of a podunk town. And I had that in my middle school gym class in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and didn't realize it was a sport. Yeah, that was back in the 80s, and I didn't realize it was a sport until 2012. When a girlfriend of mine, they were introducing pickleball into the state senior Olympics here. And she said, hey, I played tennis with her, and she got a bunch of her tennis girlfriends to come out and go in on a gym floor. And we had the old wooden diller paddles and the jugs balls. And She says, just hit with these people. We just need people to hit against them. And you don't worry about the scoring. It's too crazy. And probably after about 5 minutes, I'm like, I know exactly, this is real. I can't believe it. This is completely real.
Yeah.
This is a real sport. And I knew how to play it, knew exactly what was going on, and found out that there were tournaments, and people were playing all across the US, and decided that my tennis partner who became my pickleball partner, we decided we would go play nationals that year in 2012. And that was my first tournament. I don't recommend that to anybody, but that was my first tournament. And we were lucky enough to get a bronze medal in our age division that year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great accomplishment.
So that was 2013. I became an ambassador. And that's when I started just unofficially coaching people. I wanted to get involved. Where our whole goal was to just introduce the sport to as many people as possible, and hopefully get permanent courts built in Nashville, and just make it grow as fast as it possibly can, and make as many people as possible fall in love with the sport. And I started refereeing that year as well, so I wanted to learn every in and out part of the sport that we play.
And so how did PPR enter your life? Tell us how that genesis came about.
Yeah, I was working full time at a ministry, and I'd been there for about 10 years, and decided I wanted to really start pursuing coaching full time. And my husband and I, we built a pickleball court in our backyard here in Nashville. So behind me is a dedicated pickleball court. And I was super excited about that. Yeah, I'm jealous that I can't take it to Hilton Head with me, but it was absolutely amazing. And I wanted to just be involved and go all in on teaching. I had been teaching for a while, and I competed for several years, all in tournaments all throughout the US. And my focus just changed a little bit. And I got more joy out of teaching and spreading the sport than I did out of playing and competing in tournaments. And so I did some checking out, and about that same time, the USAPA announced their partnership with PPR. And I thought, PPR, I've heard of PTR, which is a professional tennis registry that's been around for years, started by Dennis Vandermeer. And I thought, I want to know what's going on, and what is this? And Sarah Ansberry was one of the people, and she's a friend of mine. And I called the PPR office, and Sarah happened to be in the office, and we chatted about what this was, and who was behind it, and what was going on. And the educational piece is so much more. There are people who are so much smarter than I am, who have put together how the body moves, and to really understand and correlate different sports, to be able to train them. And that's one of the things I love about PPR. And I got my certification in August of 2018. And I would say about 6 weeks later, we had training for clinicians, which are people who basically train the trainers. And there were five of us who went to Hilton Head Island to do this training, and we were going to go out throughout the United States and help Sarah train, because at that time Sarah was the only person doing trainings. And then a couple of months later, they created a job position and offered me a job. And I'm like, I have my dream job. I get to work full time in pickleball, and I get to not just affect my students now, but now I can help train other coaches and help them understand and see the importance of pickleball, and really affect the masses, where we have some consistent training where people are learning the fundamentals and foundations. But one of the mistakes that I learned I was doing when I did my training with PPR was that I was teaching people to play the way that I played. So I was teaching people to play my style and not letting my students find their own style.
Absolutely. And, PTR has a great reputation, great organization. So I'm really glad that that PPR was part of that. And then Sarah Ansberry, just an amazing instructor, an amazing player, an amazing coach. I had the privilege of being trained under her as well, and got my certification with under Sarah. So I love the organization, and I love the growth that PPR is implementing into the pickleball community. I think you said it was consistency, which is we had Morgan Evans on earlier, and he made a comment about unconscious incompetence. And I can't tell you, sometimes I'll be on courts and I'm seeing players trying to teach other players. And you're going, oh no, don't do it. Don't do it. And so I love the fact that there's a program for pickleball players to improve their game with consistent, competent instruction that PPR offers. But I do have some questions for you.
Yeah.
Some of the audience members asked. One is, I'm new to the sport of pickleball. Why should I seek an instructor who is PPR certified?
Well, and it goes back to that fundamentals and foundation. So if you're new to the sport, it doesn't matter if you're coming from tennis or if you're coming from softball. I mean, even though I've played tennis for many, many years, I consider myself a softball player first. And how I will swing and my strokes will look a little bit differently than how a tennis player would. Because I'm a shortstop. I'm an infielder in softball. And you had Cassandra on right before. I love Cassandra. She's such a great person, and you know, she's a great teacher as well, and she's a PE teacher, so she knows the importance of letting students find their own styles. And back when I started competing in pickleball, I mean, I had no idea what a third shot was. You know, I think, you know, I knew I could dink a little bit, but I was a great net player in tennis. But at least this way, I'm able to find what my style is. Do I have a driving style? You know, so many people say, oh, but you know, I see all these, especially beginners, I see all these videos on YouTube, and I watch Sarah, and I watch all the pros out there. I watch Anna Lee, and I watch Lee, and I watch Catherine, and I want to play like them. I'm like, well, of course you do, but I'm sorry, your body's not going to do that. You haven't been training your entire life to do that. So I can't help you play like them, but I can find and we can bring out the very best play for you possible. And that's what PPR coaches, that's what we strive for, is we want to have that fundamental, but we really, really want all of our students to find their own style and to elevate that style as much as possible. It's amazing, the muscle memory, kind of like what Morgan says, the muscle memory that people will use from other sports come into it. And if they've got 30 years of a history of playing tennis, taking these big backswings, you're not going to break them of that. It's not necessary, but you're not going to break them of that. So that's their style. Let them play that way.
Yeah, because there is a difference between the fundamentals and style. And a lot of times we see coaches, I think that you mentioned it was, they're trying to teach you their way. And that doesn't hold to all players. A question that one of our audience members asked was, I've been playing pickleball for a while. However, then they said many years, and people see me as a good player and ask me to teach them or give them tips. Is that one? Their question was, is that considered coaching? And should they be certified? And then they said, what harm can it do?
Yeah. You know, that's a really good question, because Brett, how tall are you?
I'm
You're
about
a tall
6
guy,
feet.
from what I remember.
Yeah,
that's what I
6'1".
Okay, so I'm 5'4.5", and how you will do something is going to be very different than how I do it. Let's say height alone, and then we take into account, part of what PPR teaches you is that, you know, male and female bodies are built differently. And when we do our certification classes, we help educate a little bit more about that, to go, you know, here's why this isn't going to work. So I can't teach you to hit the ball just like I do, but I can teach you that shot the way that you're going to hit it. And if you're out there coaching someone, you know, showing them one or two things that may not be a big deal. But if you're consistently doing that, you really need to understand how to coach somebody. I think I was overhearing someone a few years ago saying, hey, just do this. Well, why can't you just do this? And it was one of the same mistakes I made, and why I didn't like to teach beginners when I was first an ambassador is I couldn't believe the number of people who could not make contact with the ball and hit it over the net at the non-volley zone line. We're standing about, you know, 14 feet away. So
yes, exactly.
What do you mean you can't do that? I probably could have done that when I was 3 years old, and I had no empathy for that. But what we try to do is create empathy for that person. And then also, if you're coaching and you are on the courts, especially at a city park, and you're on their courts, they may ask you for liability insurance. So those are lots of things for people to kind of consider and think about. And if you really like and you get that coaching bug, come to our organization. We make it really simple for you.
You really do, and the content is so valuable in regards to how to teach and how to help other players improve their game. When I first got into pickleball, I was not taught by a certified instructor, and I literally had to unlearn a lot of how I played in order to play the ball. And it wasn't until I started getting coaching from certified coaches that knew what they're doing that says, like, who taught you this?
Yeah.
And we see that a lot on the courts. Many times I've been walking by and I'm watching it, and I just want to say, hey, can I give you some help? Can I give you a tip? You want to like interfere and go, no, you're doing it wrong. But sometimes we can't do it. Here's a question. What are some questions that someone should ask before taking lessons from a coach?
So, sometimes people want to say, hey, are you PPR certified? I would say,
Okay.
do you have a certification process? And,
Okay.
what type of certification do you have? And tell me a little bit about your coaching style. And I take that on the flip side too, is that coaches should be asking their students a lot of questions before they start teaching as well. And so if your coach just takes you out onto the court and starts hitting balls with you, and they're not asking you questions, and let's forget the easy questions about, hey, do you have any injuries I need to be worried about? Do you have any medical? Do you have any previous surgeries? But also tell me about your sports background. What have you ever played before? I want to know what your body's going to naturally do, but I also want to know how I can speak to you, because there's not, I was lucky enough to play with the coach of a Division I baseball team, and his wife, and they're good friends of ours. And I remember playing with them, and I knew enough about baseball because I played softball that, he has phenomenal hand-eye coordination, but he just didn't know exactly what to do when. But I was able to correlate, you're coming up to the non-volley zone line as if you're bunting. So you're using your hips and your momentum to keep that ball low. So there are different things. And that was, as a coach, that's such a high for me to be able to explain that to someone, especially at a high level coach who's won national championships before. I loved it. It was an amazing experience. So if you're, as a player, if your coach isn't asking you a lot of questions about your body and what you understand, they're just giving you cookie cutter information then. So they're going to teach you the way that they know how to teach. So many people think it's easy to be a coach. It's actually one of the hardest things, because you have to be so good at communication.
You do have to be good at communication. And I see a lot of challenges among players, because I get this a lot, doing a lot of coaching and I can even see it, is a player will be on the court and they're getting coaching advice from 3 other players that are all telling them what to do. And then they go to play a different match with another 3 other players, and they're getting 3 other pieces of advice. It's like, oh my God, right?
Yeah. And players don't understand the difference between game plans and coaching sometimes. Because if you and I were playing together, you and I may have a different game plan, but that doesn't mean that you're coaching me. And, especially if you're a newbie coming into this and you're very athletic, then, that draws a challenge as well.
If a coach is not PPR certified, does that mean that they don't know what they're doing?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Of course, I will say that, I believe this because we are the official education and certification partner of USAPA. I do believe that we're the best. I've been in this sport for, 8 years now. And I believe that there are a lot of people out there who know what they're doing. And because they've been doing this a long time, they may not be PPR certified. That's okay. But if you're a new person starting out and you don't necessarily know the person that you're taking lessons from, and they haven't asked you any questions, they haven't sought out what your experiences are, even if it's nothing. Because I have so many women come to me and they've never played any sports before, but they've played, and they're thinking organized sports. So, but they've definitely played cornhole. They've definitely been bowling. they've definitely, hit tennis. They've played, backyard basketball with their kids, but never anything formal and organized. So they said they've never played anything, but it's your job as a coach to get all that information out. So if people aren't asking you those questions, I would be a little bit concerned that they don't have my best interest as a student out.
Yeah, I love it, because a lot of the sports, prior sports or different sports can relay into pickleball in regards to how. It's funny is the moment you mentioned cornhole, I was doing a clinic one day, and I just for fun, we did a cornhole. I took a beanbag and had them throw it over to the net like a third shot drop. You can see the mechanics of that. Irina Terachenko, Irina.
Oh yeah.
Now she calls me cornhole. Every time she sees me, she says hi cornhole. So it stuck with her. But I get I understand a good coach can teach through visualization. They can teach through kinesthetic. They can teach through audio. They just need to figure out how best to communicate with that particular student or that particular player.
They do.
And PPR.
Oh, and this, I mean, we have educational conferences. Right now we're working really hard during this time to put more videos online, to have a lot more coaching information. We really haven't had the time to do that because we've grown so fast. And, people forget that we're not even 2 years old yet. And we have so much information out there, but our East Coast and West Coast conferences will give you so much information. It's packed full with amazing speakers who will answer any and every question possible. And if you're a PPR member, you have access to that online where you can go and watch it as well.
I think the educational opportunity just for the players to be a member of PPR, to get on there is a game changer. It's almost a must if you're a pickleball player. You're getting taught by the best instruction there is on the planet. Why wouldn't you want to take advantage of that? So my question is in regards to PPR, its growth, what are the plans in the next year or two in regards to getting that type of excellent instruction out on the West Coast, out on the East Coast? Sarah has done an amazing job, but she's only one Wonder Woman.
She's one Wonder Woman. We're adding clinicians all the time. I think last year, so I started with PPR in January of 2019. And then the year of 2019, we had almost 100 certification workshops. And so it's easy to find. You go on our website at pprpickleball.org, and we have a list of all of the workshops that we, different locations. And hopefully once we're through this pandemic, I know we're all looking forward to getting outside and hitting again and coaching again and just interacting with people. And that's one of the biggest things that I love about PPR is that it understands that this isn't just coaching to play in tournaments, but it also they understand the social aspect of pickleball. And that to me, I've had, several years ago, I had a surgery and my pickleball family saved me. They brought food over all the time. They were checking on me. I was in the bed for a couple of weeks, and different people came and sat with me while my husband went to work. And that's the piece that's a little bit unique about our sport that we don't want to lose at all, is that social aspect. And we really, drive that home a little bit with PPR, is that it's not just the coaching to get better. Everyone wants to do that, but it is exercise. It is getting out there socially. It is making new friends and finding people. And so that's what we're looking to do. If you've been coaching for a while, if you've been playing pickleball for a while, and you're PPR certified and you've been our highest level of certification, which is a pro level, which I believe that's you. Is that right, Brett? Yeah.
I am a pro instructor. Yes.
Which means in 3 different testing criteria, you have to score the best of the best. And it's not just your playing ability, it's your coaching ability. And it's also, there's an online written test that you have to have a 90% or above on. And, after you've got some experience in the PPR teaching model, the people who want to be clinicians, we want to have you. We want the cream of the crop there, because that's how we're going to grow. We want you guys shooting videos and sending to us so we can, take a look at them and put them out there. We have a newsletter that goes out every 2 months, and we've got different lectures in there. There are different drills that people do, so we're growing, but I feel like we're doing it the right way. We're doing it slow and steady and keeping moving forward, as opposed to taking 5 steps forward and then 2 steps backward. That's definitely not what we want to do.
Well, I think this is an opportunity too. A lot of players have been off the courts, obviously, because of the pandemic. And so as we get back, I call it the reset. I'm going to be doing my reset clinic tours, and I call it the reset because here's a chance of all those bad habits that you used to do, you haven't done it for 6 weeks. So now's the time to start learning the right way to do it. Become a member of PPR. If you're interested in coaching, you definitely want to be a qualified PPR instructor. Where can they go? Let's start with the coaches. The players that want to be a certified coach, what's their first step, Nicole?
You can sign up online at pprpickleball.org. You become a member of our organization. So there are 2 fees with that. There's a sliding scale fee because our membership year runs from September 1st to August 31st. And you do have to pay annual dues. And part of that is that you can get liability insurance with us. And it's up to a $6 million per occurrence policy for $54. And there's no other place around where you can get that type of liability insurance for $54. And so it's almost like we're the Costco of insurance. So, in a way is how I like to describe it. So we want you to sign up there. If there isn't a certification workshop near you and you have access to courts, call me, email me. My information is online. We'll set something up for you. We'll find a clinician, we'll work out some dates, and we'll help you promote it as well and get there and get more people playing pickleball. I follow the forum as well. And I know so many people want this to be not just a national sport, but an international sport. We've been talking about being in the Olympics, and we've got to get international before, but we also have to get our people who are playing. I think there are millions of people who are playing pickleball, but we only have about 40,000 who are USAPA members. And we've got to get so many people as a part of the national governing body. And that's why we are partnered with USAPA, because every PPR member must be a current USAPA member. We want to make sure that this grows and grows the right way.
Well, from a coaching perspective, for those that want to be coaches, besides the excellent training, besides the education and the support, you had mentioned about the insurance. That pays for itself.
100%.
Every time if I'm teaching in a city or a private club or a country club, one of the first questions they ask me is, do you have insurance? And when I send them over PPR's insurance policy, they love it. They love it.
Most people have $3 million policies. It's either 1 or 3 million. And when they see our $6 million policy, they're like, oh my gosh, yes, you have done your homework. You know what you're doing. You're covering your bases, and it helps build an automatic trust.
It absolutely does. Now, what about the average player out there that just wants to find a coach in their area? How will they find a local coach that is PPR certified?
Yeah. So again, you visit our website at pprpickleball.org. And I believe it's the top right-hand area. It says find a coach. So if you click on that, you just really follow the instructions. You can put your zip code in, you can put your state in, and you can search for people and go through. You'll see if there's someone who's a certified coach versus a certified pro. And a certified coach really are for beginners. And I would say, 3.0 to low 3.5 players. Because they understand the technical pieces of it. They know how to introduce that into it. Our PPR pros really understand the tactics in it. So they know to teach you, when do I attack? How do I get to be from a banger to an all-around player? I'm winning, but I know I'm not playing pickleball, because when I go and I play against someone who hits the ball and makes it bounce in front of me, I'm just not having any success. So what do I need to do? So you want to really find a PPR pro, and because that person is going to know the ins and outs of pickleball. They're going to know how to help you.
Not only do they know the how, but they also teach you the why.
Exactly. Exactly.
right?
And that's
just
so
top,
important.
excellent training, excellent coaches with PPR. Nicole, thank you so much for being here, sharing with our
Oh,
audience what you do, and hopefully we'll get you back on for further discussions and helping players become better players, helping coaches become better coaches.
absolutely. Anytime. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much. And thank you for putting this on. It's amazing. And I know so many people are watching. So we send it out to all of our memberships and everyone's looking forward to it. So thank you so much, Brett, and the whole
Thank
team.
you. And next time you referee one of my matches, don't look at my feet.
You got to give me more money. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, we'll see you on the course, Nicole. Okay, it looks like we're going to go into some giveaways. I love giving away stuff. This is free stuff. And so if you made some comments, our first giveaway is a ladies shirt. And this is to Robin Morris. Robin, congratulations. When you go to the website, it's www.youreverythingpickleballstore.com. On that particular website, you're going to find women's shirts that are in bling and rhinestones that were handmade or hand designed. You're going to find racerback shirts. You're going to find comfort shirts. So you go onto that website. It's a $30 value. Pick out any shirt you want. It's yours. We look forward to seeing you on the courts with that shirt. Our next giveaway, and thanks to Morgan and Coach Me Pickleball, another 3-month subscription. It looks like a $20 value there, but I think it's actually a $30 value. And that goes to Mary Lowe. Mary Lowe, you got a $30 value, 3 months of subscription to Coach Me Pickleball under one of the best coaches in the industry. And then guess what? Allie Warner, you just won a pro pack from VitaFlow Sports. Both the spray and the cream, you are no longer going to have any more aches and pains. I guarantee it. You're going to love it. $100 value. Thank you, VitaFlow. And the paddle, Selkirk was very generous in giving away a paddle. The Selkirk Epic Prime paddle, an $80 value, goes to Sue Adams. So congratulations to Sue Adams. A lot of gifts to give away. We want to thank the sponsors, VitaFlow, Digital Spatula, Pickleball Sports, and Coachable Pickleball for putting this all together. Our next, I love our next speaker. DJ Howard is going to be our next speaker. If you don't know who DJ Howard is, you will today. He is an incredible player, but an incredible coach and trainer. So we're going to be talking to DJ in just a moment. Hey, DJ, how are you doing?
Hey, great, Brett. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, for the audience members, DJ and I got to know each other by doing pickleball clinics together. And one of the first things I realized from you, DJ, is not only are you a great player, you are an amazing coach. And you have the ability to connect with players and find exactly, as a matter of fact, Nicole and I were just talking about it, is you don't teach that there's only one way to do pickleball. You actually are looking at the individual student, finding out their strengths, and really exploiting that strength for them and teaching them a skill level that makes them a better pickleball player. And I've seen you on the courts where you're watching players that aren't doing it right, and you just volunteer and help them. You teach them out of your heart. So you love pickleball, and that love shows. So thank you for everything that you do for the pickleball community.
Hey, those are kind words, Brett. Thanks a lot.
Today we're going to be talking about something that I don't like to do, DJ. And I'm sure there's a lot of players out there that don't like to do it. And I'm over 50. As a matter of fact, next year I'm going to be able to play in the 60 category. I need to stretch. And there's a lot of players out there, whether they're 19 or 60 or 70, need to stretch. And for me, because I don't do it, I know that I need to do it. And I think that what you're going to show today is some simple stretching ideas that are going to help us, especially prevent injury.
Yeah, that's right. And what you have to realize is the benefits are important, but it's worth the sacrifice of time and effort it takes to do it. So correct me if I'm wrong, Brett, but you're not getting looser as you age. My guess is you're getting tighter as you age. Is that right?
I'm getting tighter and tighter.
And
I
my
am.
guess is it's true for all of us. You know, none of us is as loose and flexible as we were when we were 7, 8, or 17, 18 years old. So it's going to take some effort in order to maintain some flexibility, to prevent injuries, and to improve performance.
So I guess that answers that question in regards to why stretch.
Yeah.
Why is it important?
Well, absolutely. One is injury prevention. We
Okay.
have, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people eager to get back out there and play pickleball.
Yeah.
Majority of those players are going to go out there and they're going to overdo it. They're going to get sore. They're going to potentially injure themselves. Some of them maybe severely because they haven't done proper stretching. And it's not just warm up prior to play. That's important. But daily stretching to increase flexibility, to keep the muscles loose and ready and prepared to get out there and play once you exert yourself. It's really, really important. You don't want to get injured. But then on top of that, your performance will be better. You think about just a simple skill like dinking. If that ball is out wider, if you have a little more flexibility to be able to bend and stretch, reach for that ball, as opposed to either not getting it at all or using your back and maybe losing your balance, you can see the performance benefits to the stretching, but it has to be a consistent practice. It has to be something that's done smart and properly, and benefits can be seen down the road.
Are there different types of stretching?
Yeah, it's a great question. And there's a proper time to do each. So a few different types of stretching would be what's called ballistic stretching. It's highly advanced. I wouldn't really recommend it. Usually younger athletes in power sports are going to be doing some type of high impact type ballistic stretching. We're not really concerned. But dynamic stretching with movement, and we can show some examples. And in fact, I'll give you an example right now. If I can remain on camera here, I'm going to back up a little bit. An example of a dynamic stretch would be something where maybe I'm trying to get my hip a little more flexible. I'm going to swing my leg forward and back here. So I'm moving with that stretch. Am I on camera okay here?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, good. You know, I'm not trying to stress myself out too much. I'm not trying to cause any pain, but that's stretching with movement, right? I could do any number of stretches with movement like that. If I wanted to do my arms, I could go back and forth with my arms like so, right? There's also what we call static stretching, which is just a long hold of a particular position. So similar to that would be if I'm trying to stretch the front of my hip here, I would just hold that position here and I feel the stretch, but I'm going to hold it, right? So static stretching is stationary, dynamic stretching with movement. Understand?
Okay. I get it. So which for a pickleball player, which one of those stretching techniques would you recommend?
Yeah, well, I thought you might ask that question. I'm glad you did, because the answer is both. Both are immensely important. But the timing of when we do each one is also very important. So prior to play, before I get out on the court, really a good idea to do some dynamic stretching. Jumping jacks would fall in this category. That same example I just showed where I'm swinging one leg forward and back. I would want to obviously do the other leg the same way. Because pickleball players are notoriously very, very tight throughout their hips, we would want to make sure we get the hips stretched forward and back like this. We also want to make sure we're stretching side to side like so. And those are things you can do prior to playing. So before we run out there and dink the ball back and forth 5 times and say, let's go play, That's a temptation that we're all prone to, myself included. We want to play as quickly as possible, especially if we haven't been able to for a while.
Right.
We take just a few minutes to warm up with some dynamic stretching right prior to hitting the courts. Our muscles now have some blood in them, and they're prepared for that intensity. I can give you another couple examples just to get my legs warmed up a little bit. I can do this kind of walking across the court, or I could jog.
Okay.
My knees up here like so. I could also do the other way. So my feet are going backwards. Okay, or I could jog it out when I'm on the court like so. But again, this is something you can do in your living room. If you need a chair for balance, that's totally appropriate. You know, to hold on to something and let that leg swing back and forth. But right prior to playing pickleball, want to make sure you do some dynamic stretching. It's going to get those muscles loosened up and prepared to play better than just a static stretch where I'm standing there trying to stretch out my hamstrings, for example. Does that make sense?
Dynamic is right before you get on the court. It's much better than static. Now, what about, is there a time of day or evening that might be better to stretch?
That's a good question. There is no bad time to stretch. So
Okay.
I would recommend the dynamic stretching prior to playing, as opposed to static stretching where I'm just trying to, you know, the old example of where I'm just bending over and trying to touch my toes, right? It's a hamstring stretch, but it also puts a lot of stress on the low back, and it's not really a good stretch to prepare you to play. So as far as timing goes, I would suggest that the dynamic stretching is what you want to do right prior to play. But first thing in the morning, I mean, we're all stiff, right? But
Right.
overstretch cold muscles. That's why we do a little bit of dynamic stretching to get the muscles loose and warmed up. We could even just do something simple like I mentioned the example of jumping jacks. We could also even just do a side shuffling or a jog back and forth. Now, a little difficult to do in your living room, right? I don't have a lot of space here, as you can see, to jog around. But if I just did a little jogging in place, once I get warmed up, then I could do some static stretching without causing too much discomfort, right? Now, static stretching is great. I can loosen up my muscles by doing some static stretching. For example, if my hamstrings are tight and I wanted to loosen up my hamstring, all I really need to do is put my leg up on a chair. Maybe I use a stool if I'm not very flexible, and I can just kind of lean into it, and I'm going to hold that stretch. So I feel my hamstring with some tension there to a mild discomfort. I'm not causing pain, but if I hold that, continue to breathe, so oxygen is getting into my blood, into those muscles, then that's going to help my muscles increase some flexibility, but that also decreases the pressure and the tension on those tendons and ligaments that comprise the joint. So hopefully that makes sense. But to further answer your question, timing of this, there is no bad time of day. Now, most of us by the afternoon are a little bit more loosened up because we've been walking around, we've been doing chores or whatever. Great time to do some stretching. Evening, okay? Maybe late evening prior to going to bed for the night. Do some stretching. Every single night before I go to bed, I do some stretching, some static stretching, just to try to loosen my hips, loosen up my legs a little bit because they're starting to get tight throughout the day. And I've noticed the benefit. I've noticed the increased flexibility, the reduced soreness, the reduced potential for injury.
And
it just feels good to do it. But since I started doing it, I feel better. So there is no bad time. It's almost any time is a good time to stretch. You just have to make the time to do it.
Oh, here's a question that I think I have for myself, and I'm sure a lot of pickleball players have. In the game of pickleball, we utilize certain muscle groups. Mm-hmm. Could you maybe identify for our audience what are some of the muscle groups that we use primarily in pickleball, and what stretches or stretch exercises would you recommend that would help those muscle groups?
Yeah, well, the examples I've shown already,
Mhm.
because our
Okay.
lower body, believe it or not, pickleball is about 75% lower body. We
Okay.
often think about the paddle doing all the work, and so has great hands, they have great reflexes, and that may be true. We do have to use the paddle to contact the ball. However, in receiving the ball, we're using our lower body to move into position. While we're hitting the ball, hitting that stroke, whatever it is, forehand, backhand, volleys, we're using our lower body to stabilize. And then in recovering back into position, we're using our lower body. So we definitely want to hit the hips, the quads here in front, my thighs, my hamstrings in back, my glutes
Okay.
back in here. My calves are also going to be important. Anybody who's ever had any kind of Achilles pain or popped a calf muscle maybe, believe it or not, a lot of low back pain can come from tight hamstrings. So everything's connected, right? We want to make sure that that lower body maintains some good flexibility, because we have tightness anywhere, whether it's in the calf muscles, the gastrocs, the quad muscles, the glutes, or the hips. There's potential for injury. Everything's interrelated. Back pain can be caused by tightness down in here somewhere. That's the truth of it. So if I want to continue to loosen up my hips, as I showed before, I can swing my leg forward and back. I can go side to side here. Okay, I can also do what we call a can opener stretch, where I take the hip out and go this way. I can go this way. Anything that I can do to stretch out this hip joint here is going to be very, very beneficial for pickleball players. Upper body, which is important too. Anybody who's ever had rotator cuff injuries, I'll give you just an example. This is the best rotator cuff stretch that I'm aware of, because you get the exterior shoulder as well as the interior shoulder. So if you can see me okay, I'll start with my thumbs about shoulder height here, pointing up to the ceiling. Take one arm with my thumb going back like this. This thumb goes down, and then I'm going to go backwards like this and give that a squeeze until I can feel some tension there in my upper mid shoulders. Hold that for a little bit, and then I'm going to switch. My thumbs are up. This thumb goes up, this down, in here. So very important that I take that thumb downward and I invert that shoulder, because now I'm stretching my rotator cuff. When I play pickleball, I'm very often coming down like this with the shoulder. And I've known several players who've injured their rotator cuffs because they didn't properly loosen up. They already had too much tension in there. This stretch here is the best rotator cuff stretch you can do. I would do this every day, not just prior to playing. So any number of other examples I could use if we want to stretch chest, upper mid back, I can just take my arms back and forth like this. Again, this is a dynamic stretch. I want to make sure that I'm loosening up any joint that I would be using when I play pickleball. When I'm swinging this way, I have muscles that accelerate one direction, and the other side, those muscles are decelerating. So I want to make sure that I'm trying to increase some flexibility and get that entire joint loose, because if I have a restriction in some area near a joint, that's going to cause problems. Does that make sense?
I love it. I mean, you have such a wealth of information. One of our audience members asked us, says, Daniel, do you have a website with all the exercises you are suggesting? Do you have a website where they can go to your website and go, I want to see DJ show me how to stretch?
You know what? I do have a website, but I don't have these stretches and exercises on there. I will look to add some of these. I'll see if I can put together a little video tutorial with some of these exercises and stretches. That's something I can add to my website.
Okay, and what is your website so the audience knows where to go?
Oh goodness, off the top of my head, I don't. I should know this right off the bat, right? Daniel J. Pickleball.
We'll have,
I guess
if
you do
an
what you
audience
can find
member
out.
knows DJ's website, type it in the chat box and Dave will
Sorry,
send it to
guys,
me.
that's terrible of me.
Here's the last question that I have for you, DJ. What type of stretches should you do if you're cramping?
Whatever muscle is cramping, you want to flex it the opposite way. You know, if I have a cramp in my calf and it's locked up, I want to stretch it back the opposite way. So, for example, you know, my calf is tightened up, so my foot is here. I want to stretch that the opposite way. You know, I would probably lay on the bed and have somebody else help me push my toes up towards my knee, because I want to stretch that out. I don't want that tight muscle to continue to have all that stress and that cramping going on. So I'm going to stretch it the opposite way. But again, that's a good point, because stretching prevents cramping. It can help keep those muscles loose, and it's going to help reduce the amount of cramping that's done. So another benefit to stretching.
So DJ, what is your Facebook page where they can reach you and go, hey, what's your website? So where are you on Facebook?
Facebook, Daniel J. Howard Pickleball.
Daniel J. Howard Pickleball.
See, yeah, Daniel J. Howard Pickleball. I do have a YouTube page. I got just a few videos on there. But if you want to check that out, that's Daniel J. Howard. So certainly welcome to go there on YouTube. And what I should do, in addition to doing some of these stretches and exercises on my website, I'll see if I can get those uploaded onto YouTube as well.
I appreciate that. DJ, thank you for everything that you do. You are one of the top coaches in the game of pickleball. It was a sad day on April 1st when we learned that you were no longer going to play pickleball. And then we were all crying and going, why, we want you. And then on April 2nd, you shared that it was an April Fool's joke. So we're glad that you're in the sport. We're so grateful for everything that you do. And listen, if you're out there playing, if you're a pickleball player, go to DJ's Facebook page, give him a shout out, tell him thanks for the stretching techniques. He's going to create some videos for you that's going to help you improve your game by stretching properly and reducing injury. So DJ, I look forward to seeing you on the courts again.
Hey,
and hopefully we can do some more. Hopefully we can do some more clinics together.
Yeah, sure thing. Sounds good. Just remember, consistency is key.
Consistency. All right. Have a good one. We'll see you on the courts, DJ. I was DJ Howard, just an amazing player, an amazing coach. I had the opportunity to do several clinics with him, and just love working with him. So unfortunately, he didn't have his website, but let's move on to Mike Hoxie. We're going to be talking about Pickleball is Great tournaments. An amazing tournament director. Hi, everyone. This is Brett Noel with Coachable Pickleball. If you have ever played in a pickleball tournament, you know what I've experienced. I've been to tournaments that have been run great. I've been to tournaments where, oh my God, a complete disaster. And as a tournament player, I've traveled around the country, played in many tournaments, and one of the best, several of the, matter of fact, the best tournaments I've ever experienced was what we call the PIG tournaments, PIG. It's a funny name, but it stands for Pickleball is Great. It is run by Mike Hoxie, one of the best tournament directors I've ever experienced, and some of the best tournaments you'll ever experience. We're lucky enough today to have Mike Hoxie with us to talk about his tournaments, a little bit about his experience in running tournaments, what he sees in the future of pickleball tournaments, especially with this pandemic that's going on. Mike, you and I have known each other for a little bit. As a matter of fact, I remember first getting into pickleball that you and I actually competed against each other at several tournaments. And I always remember what a good sportsmanship you put on the courts, what a great sports you were, how well you played. And now you're running tournaments. You're running PIG tournaments. So my first question is, why PIG? How did you come up with the name PIG, Pickleball is Great? What's the genesis and the story behind that?
Well, first, Brett, I want to thank you for the introduction. That was very kind to you. I have great memories of how we met also on the courts, and I had to ref some of your games also. And unfortunately, that's because you beat me a couple of times. But obviously, you've done well. The
Thank
pickleball, I started it back in 2016. I wanted to make sure that it captured some of that fun that I think pickleball is really drives. And one of the big deals with it is it has to start with the word pickleball so that you can find it on the internet. And I was tired of dealing with pickles. I didn't want to be associated to a cucumber or a vegetable. How fun it would be to have a pig. And if you ever go into a Goodwill, there's way more pig memorabilia than I ever thought there was. And it's been kind of fun to have a little bit different logo out there. And my joke is I can always eat another piece of bacon, and I'll have bacon instead of vegetables. But pickleball is great. Is the idea is that it's something fun to help keep in that spirit of the fun of the game.
Now, you went from being a pickleball player. I know you do some refereeing, a great referee. What made you decide to, hey, I'm going to start running my own tournaments?
So what happened was, up here in Oregon, I was part of a club called the Columbia River Pickleball Club. And when we started the club, I was the youngest guy in the room, so I became the webmaster. And like every other club, we do a tournament as a fundraiser, and I became the guy behind the computer there. So I learned back in 2012 when pickleball tournaments was just transitioning to Melissa McCurley, and I ran a couple tournaments a year in the Northwest for my Columbia River Pickleball Club as well as Oregon State Games, and she was getting positive feedback on how the tournaments ran. And when her and her brother bought the company, she realized they can't get everywhere, and she gave me that idea. If I start a company, they can refer business to me in the Northwest.
Right.
Coach Russell would take care of the Southeast. And that's how it all started. And I was doing it part-time while I worked full-time for Kroger, and it was fun on the side. But then I found I really enjoyed it more than going to work for someone else. So I started business. I came to California and saw there was a lot of opportunity there, met some great people, and kept growing the business. And I finally ran out of vacation time in 2018 where I had to decide, do I want to keep working for someone else, or do I want to commit to this 100%? And like you said, it's just kind of taken over. So it's been great.
Well, you know, there are so many tournaments going on in the last couple of years, at least for myself, because I'm a major tournament player. I'm sometimes playing 2 to 3 tournaments a month. And now that I see a lot more tournaments coming as an opportunity of where do I want to play, a lot of times if I'm kind of trying to make a determination between 2 different tournaments, because sometimes the dates overlap, if I see that you're running your tournament, I will choose your tournament because I know it's going to be run great. I know that I'm going to have a good experience. You just bring so much positive energy and fun to the tournaments that I've been to. Was that part of the plan? And when you started your own tournaments, what was it that you said, okay, I'm going to do this differently from other tournaments?
Well, it's exactly like you said. You want to be able to choose when you have multiple choices. Why would you choose to come to this tournament versus that one? And 30 years in retail, I really understood that value of every interaction. As a player, it's been great to start on time, end on time, all those basics that you want as a player to happen. But a lot of the times you don't know what to expect unless a club has been doing it for 4 or 5 or 6 years. So yes, I did start it with that exact idea, so that if you could drive 50 miles to a tournament close to you or 150 miles to a tournament that I'm doing, at least you'll know at a Pickleball is Great tournament, you'll get all the communications ahead of time. If it rains, we'll let you know how we deal with the delays. Try to be very consistent and fair, because a lot of those retail basics come through. And while we work with lots of different clubs and organizations, we have that basic expectation that the players expect these minimum items in order to come back. And we want to make sure it's a relationship, not a transaction, basically.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Now, I wrote a note here. Wanted to ask you, I understand that you hold a black belt in Lean Six Sigma. What does that mean?
So when I was in job transition, I went back to get some more education, and Lean Six Sigma is essentially doing things efficiently and doing it without mistakes. So Toyota did lean and making sure they had the right amount of tires at the for how many cars they're building per day. And Six Sigma was when you make bars of soap all day, you want to make sure there's no metal in it or the wrong shape. And how do you make, 10,000 bars of soap exactly the same? So the idea is that we have the same process, and how do we do it with no mistakes? And it's that kind of idea of how close are the draw sheets to where the refreshments are, to how close to where your players are set up. And every tournament I get to use this skill. A lot of people will call it common sense, but there's a dollar factor to it of how much are you saving if I put the draw sheets on the other side of the fence. Then it takes longer to get the results posted and then longer to get the results back. So all those basics that help the players have a better experience.
Well, you mentioned common sense, and the first thing that came through my mind was that common sense is not so common. So what I get from that is, if I know, and I've experienced this with your tournaments, if I go to one tournament in California and I have a great experience, I know that if I have another tournament in Oregon or Washington or in Hawaii, where I think you've done a couple of tournaments, that I'm going to have the same great experience no matter which one of your tournaments that you're running.
It's very true. We're seeing more people last year travel from Alaska to Hawaii or Seattle to Santa Barbara. Yes, we do tend to do tournaments in the fun places like Maui in December or Homer, Alaska in June. But we're finding that people can tag along. And when we do a tournament in Lake Chelan, Washington, there's great apple tasting up there and wine tasting, and people make a tour out of it. And that's exactly what we do. Whether it's myself or Kathy Rambosic or Gigi Guerra running the tournament, we all have that same focus on the player experience and making sure that people want to come back.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, I think the last tournament that I'll pick up, at least for you and I, the last tournament you and I were at together in Arizona, I think we had 3 or 4 other tournaments planned to go to. I had 4 or 5 pickleball clinics planned to go to. My wife, who does pickleball clothing, had a bunch of events to go to, and all of a sudden it stopped. This pandemic has changed our structure. The question I had for you is this, was how are you dealing with that? And is there anything that you're doing to mitigate the damage or simply waiting it out?
So what we've done is we obviously had 20 tournaments impacted so far. So 11 of them are canceled and done. It's about 1,500 players that are not going to have their tournament this year, like Homer, Alaska. It's just not going to work out this year. I have another 6 to 10 tournaments that are rescheduling. Some of those have dates, some of them don't. So a lot of it, there's been a lot of player communication, a lot of confirmation. We've created an online store, a Shopify website now where you can buy some of the cool trinkets and stainless steel straws and things that I've carried around with me. I have a couple of those. We created gift cards. So instead of people getting a refund, they can do it to a gift card to carry on to a future tournament. So we've been active on trying to keep the business moving while I'm applying for the small business loans and going through all those other steps. But a lot of it is just looking at the rest of the year on how do we double up. That next weekend, when everything shut down on March 21st, we were going to do 3 tournaments in 3 states. And then on April 5th, we had 3 tournaments in 3 states. So we had a few big steps planned that now we get to at least step back, reorganize. And our next event is planned at the end of May, but it really does depend on the city of Spokane or the city of Discovery Bay on whether or not those will happen or not.
Well, I'm hoping that it comes sooner rather than later. In closing, Mike, let me ask you this. If someone wants to have a tournament in their area or their city, and they want a great tournament director like you to run it, how do they get a hold of you?
So the best starting place is our website, pickleballisgreat.com. We also put photos of all of the tournaments in the past on our Facebook page under the events. So you can kind of see some of the fun that happens at these tournaments under each of the events for all of the tournaments we've done the last couple of years. So The best bet's to drop me an email at pickleballsgreat@gmail.com. And that way we can set up a time to talk about what's the focus, what's the goal of the tournament. Some tournaments are there to make money. Some tournaments are there as a fundraiser, like we did one for Learn to Read in Florida this past January. And that was a fundraiser for helping literacy in the county. It was a great tournament. But every tournament has their own focus, and we try to make sure that we decide on that together so that as we set the pricing and the responsibilities, we know who's going to be in charge of what tasks.
Oh, absolutely. So listen, pickleball players out there, if you are thinking about having a tournament anywhere in the United States, I'm sure Mike doesn't mind traveling to Hawaii. He doesn't mind traveling to the beautiful parts of our nation. If you are thinking about having a pickleball tournament and you want the best tournament director out there to run it, I highly recommend Mike Hoxie with Pig. Pickleball is great tournaments. You have his website. Give him a call.
Thanks, Brett. I really appreciate it and looking forward to hearing from anybody.
Thanks, Mike. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Okay. That was Mike Hoxie. That was Mike Hoxie from Pig Tournaments, an absolutely amazing tournament director. We're going to do some giveaways right now. And I love doing the giveaways. We got a lot of product to give away, not only today, but tomorrow as well. We're got a great day for tomorrow. A lot of giveaways, a lot of great speakers. And I just want to thank everyone for being in attendance today, giving out your shout outs, asking your questions, giving your support to the pickleball community. Pickleball is the best people in the world are pickleball players. So, and I think that's why we're so anxious to get back on the courts. So right after our giveaway, we got a dynamic speaker, Coach Matty, is going to be talking about getting from the baseline to the non-volley zone. So we'll talk about that in a moment, but let's give away some product. I'm hoping I pronounce your last name correctly, John Ornisi or Ornice, but John Ornice. Pickleball Rocks was kind enough to give a $20 gift certificate, $20 value to Pickleball Rocks. So John Ornisi, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. Congratulations, you are the winner. And then Coach Me Pickleball donated another 3-month subscription. This is for Tommy Parasio, if I pronounce it right. I hope I do. But Tommy, you are the winner of 3 months of just pure golden nuggets from Coach Me. Morgan Evans, one of the top coaches in the nation. I know he was coaching Tyson McGuffin at one time. And listen, Judy Heinbach, you just won a $100 value from VitaFlow Sports, the Pro Pack, both the spray and the cream. I guarantee you, if you're like me and ever experience an ache or a pain or know someone that does, you're going to want this product. And you got it, $100 value by VitaFlow Sports. And then, oh my God, Christine Sturgeon, $50 value. You got the VitaFlow Sport Rescue product from VitaFlow Sport. This is a spray-on that is what I call the immediate relief. If you got an ache or a swelling or something that's bothering you, you spray that on that part of the body, instant relief. You're going to love it, Christine. Congratulations. And then guess what? Scott Golden, who we're going to be talking to next, was kind enough to donate one of his paddles, the Monarch Golden Axe, an edgeless paddle. It's $120 value. And Rasmussen, you're the winner of that paddle. We expect you to win some gold medals with it and win a lot more matches with the Golden Axe. So congratulations to winners of today's giveaway. We are going to be talking to Scott Golden. He's known as the Golden Boy, just not only a dynamic player, but a dynamic individual. We've seen him at events. We've seen him MC some events. He's on the microphone a lot. And we're going to be talking to Scott Golden in just a moment. Just an amazing player. A shout out to all the speakers that we've had in the past, today and yesterday. Just dynamic information, a lot of knowledge. I'm hoping you as the audience are getting these pearls of wisdom or taking some golden nuggets. Can't even talk right. Golden nuggets. DJ Howard, we just got done with that. was talking about stretching, and he is so right. Especially if you're like me, if you're over 50, you need to stretch. And I don't like to stretch at all. So I got to do it. You've got to do it. The one thing that he talked about, I don't know, when he lifted his hands up or his thumbs up, one thumb up, one thumb down, and then squeeze the shoulders. For me, I just tell players, if you get on the court and you don't stretch and you don't do anything, at least just do that. It takes 15 seconds to do that, and save an injury part. I remember rushing on the court because we always want to play. I remember doing an overhead smash, and I just felt something tear in the back of my shoulder. And for about 3 or 4 weeks, I paid the price. That probably could have been prevented by doing some proper stretching. So if you are online and you do like certain stretching techniques, kind of share with us in regards to what you do. What stretches do you do before a game or after a game or during a game, and what's going on? So one of the audience members asked DJ, what do you do during cramps? So here's my question to you. If you can post it, during cramps, what do you do? Have you ever been on the pickleball courts and all of a sudden a leg cramped up or a muscle cramped up? What do you do? Are you taking mustard? Are you drinking pickle juice? Are you, what do you do? I was at a tournament. I'm trying to think of where I was. I think I was in Utah, and it wasn't so much of a cramp as much as it was his muscle popped, his calf muscle popped out. And then he popped it back in. Crazy stuff. And he finished the game. And so write in, if you in the chat box, let the audience know, what do you do during cramping? We're just trying to get the Golden Boy online. For some reason, the camera is kicking him off. Maybe there's just too much gold around him. So too much static. So we'll see what happens. I can almost hear him. So hopefully he'll be on shortly. Scott Golden, the Golden Boy, with his own pickleball paddle, the Golden Axe. I believe it's sold in Dick's Sporting Goods. We just had a recent winner of that paddle, and I think Scott guarantees that you'll win a medal if you use his paddle. We'll ask him to see if he has that type of guarantee on his paddles. But just a real nice individual, a contributor to pickleball, and just an all-around nice guy. How many of you have seen the Coach Me videos, the We Will Survive? Great. We want to thank Morgan and Steve Taylor for doing that and putting that on for us as well. Hopefully we're going to see each other on the courts again. It's going to be really interesting how we greet each other. Are we going to touch paddles? Are there going to be any hugs like we used to? Are we going to just touch elbows? What's going to go on? So here's my question to you, since we're waiting for the Golden Boy to get on, is how are you going to, when you're back on the courts, how would you prefer to be acknowledged in regards to, normally we would get the hugs in the past. What do you want? Do you want us to just tap your paddles? Are we going to just knuckle each other? Are we going to elbow each other? Are we just going to say, hi, it's nice seeing you after all these months? I know we're anxious to get back on the courts. And right now we've got a lot of players that are playing out of the garages, playing out of the living room. So what are you doing? Here's my question to you right now then. What are you doing to keep your skill set in place? What are you hitting against the wall? Did you set up something in your garage? I've got some friends out of state that are actually in the middle of the street, and they taped a pickleball court with chalk, and they're playing in the middle of the street. I'm starting to see some businesses are opening up through this pandemic, so hopefully we'll start to see some of the courts that are going to move on. And it looks like while we're trying to get Scott squared away, we might just play a quick video. If you haven't seen it yet, here's a good video.
Gentlemen, we're not always looking great out there. Let's be honest. Hey there, little lady. Is that big old return of serve coming to get you? I'll protect you. Don't you worry. It's Prince Third Ball Taker here to save the day.
Oh, he's not coming over here again, is he? Who does he think he is? I'm not Cinderella, and he definitely isn't my Prince Charming. Don't you dare! You take that again, I will slap you!
Chivalry died a slow and painful death in mixed doubles, and if all we have in our defense is muttering the words under our breath, well, do you want to play or do you want to win? Then something's wrong. We got to make a change. Today we're going to take a look at a couple of key situations where the men's organization needs to get it together. Deciding on who should take the third ball can be tricky in doubles and in mixed.
Many players simply don't feel comfortable trying to hit a drop or a drive off their backhand side, instead electing to call their partners in to use their forehand.
This is perfectly reasonable, but before you go taking every third ball, ask your partner if they fall into this category. They may indeed have a better backhand than forehand, in which case allowing them to take the third ball will let you disconnect early and become a menace to your opponent's fourth ball. If your girl would really like you to take that third ball on a regular basis, then you're still going to have to deal with the occasional divorce ball. The one where no one knows who gets it. This is the ball that's coming so close to your partner that it's not clear if you can get it. Often leads to both players approaching the ball, neither one feeling comfortable verbally or non-verbally communicating who should play it. If you find this is happening to you a lot, then there's a couple of things you can do. Firstly, adjust your starting position so that the guy can cover more ground to protect the backhand side of the girl. Yes, his backhand side will become more exposed by this, but that is generally the lesser of two problems. Secondly, create a staggered position whereby the guy is a few feet in front of the girl, effectively giving him the first right of refusal. Visually, this will help the girl know what he's able to take and allow her to be in a great backup position if he fails. This can happen in almost any part of the court, but most commonly causes problems up at the kitchen. The age-old discussion of how much testosterone a mixed team should really have is never going to end. There'll always be passive men who find a way to succeed without the need to beat their chest after lighting a fire. However, unfortunately, those days seem to be few and far between. And the teams with more aggressive guys end up on the podium. One of the important positions for both players to be on the same page is protecting the left foot of the right side player, often the girl in mixed doubles. This applies to men's and women's doubles, but seems to be more of an issue in mixed. When a guy from Mars doesn't communicate well with a girl from Venus, then paddles are clashed and eyes are rolled. Both players need to recognize that this particular area is going to be a typical weak point for anyone, guy or girl. The player on the right can hit this ball with their backhand, and it might go over 9 times out of 10. But if it can be played more effectively with the forehand of the other player, then you should at least give yourself the option. This can be done easily with clear and obvious verbal communication, a quick shift of lateral position, or simply a pivoting step that removes that player's left foot from the contact area, effectively indicating to the man you're okay with him coming into your territory. A classic time to use this strategy is when either player has hit a quality dink that draws the other player off the court or off balance. The moment you see that that player is in a little bit of trouble, your man should come over, knowing that a sharp angle cross-court dink is very unlikely, and that they will often be playing close to the girl's left foot. Time to shine, gentlemen. Get in there. But don't think that just because you came to the rescue means you get to slay the dragon. You're there for assistance first and foremost, not dominance. If an opening is there and your contact is high enough, sure, go for it. But make sure you resist the urge to attack behind you. There will be a lot of real estate available for your opponent to counter into. Your other options will be repeated dinks to the backhand, middle dinks, and a well-placed lob. It's not always easy for men to walk the fine line between chivalry and ball hog. My best advice is to do the tough communication off the court. Talk openly and honestly with your partner about what you want, what you're looking for, and then experiment in practice matches. Remember, men might be reluctant to tell you that the level of aggression that has won your team the last 5 points straight isn't going to be sustainable, and we might get tired, we might need a nap.
Women won't always admit that their team's chances of success go up dramatically when their man becomes Tarzan. On behalf of the male organization, ladies, we are sorry. We're learning, and our mixed issues are on the list at the next annual general meeting.
Hey, what's up, Brett?
How you doing?
I'm good, buddy. Sorry about the little glitch there. The phone that I was trying to use, my iPhone, it kept kicking me off, so I just grabbed the laptop.
You know, things happen even to royalty, so I understand it. It's good to have you on the show. Hey, today your topic is going to be about the Ernie. Here's my first question, and a lot of audience members will probably have it. What the heck is an Ernie?
Great question. If you've been around pickleball for any length of time or have been on the court with somebody that is maybe even a high-level player, you've probably heard the lingo or you've seen the shot executed on the court, either your partner, yourself, or your opponent executing an Ernie. But some people, if they're brand new to the sport or if they've just never experienced it, maybe they don't play at a level quite yet where people are doing Ernies on a regular basis, you may not know what that is that I'm talking about. So great question. So an Ernie is essentially where you negate or neutralize the non-volley zone, or what we in the sport.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I can't hear you. I don't know. Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yes.
You can hear me?
Now I can. Yes.
Okay. I can't hear you now. Let me see. Hold on one second.
Okay.
You there?
I'm here.
Hey,
Can you hear?
Okay. Okay. I took my earphones out. Is that better?
That's much better. Much better.
Okay.
So let's just quickly start out with what is an Ernie and how did the Ernie get its name?
Okay, so I'll start again because I don't know if who could hear me right there or not. But basically, if you've been around the sport for any length of time or you have been on the court with some high-level players, you've probably heard the lingo or you've seen someone execute the shot called an Ernie. But for those that are either brand new to pickleball, Brett, or maybe just haven't played at that level yet where people are executing Ernie shots on a regular basis, basically what an Ernie is it's the ability to neutralize or negate the 7-foot kitchen zone on your side of the court. And you basically either jump over or go through the non-volley zone and get up close to the net on your side, and you hit the ball up close to the net so that you can execute that shot with precision. So everybody who's played pickleball knows that the non-volley zone, the 20x14 zone, is the neutralizer in the game. And it can create a lot of problems. If you're playing against somebody who can dink the ball really well and they're able to put soft touch and drop the ball in front of your feet, well, you're never going to be able to attack the ball and make an offensive shot from that, and they're going to keep you in a dink rally. So one of the ways, Brett, that I learned about the Ernie is by being the person that was getting picked on, and also just being kind of new. I wasn't a real strong dinker, and my game was always kind of an aggressive type of game. So I really quickly realized, okay, if I can jump over the non-volley zone and get to the side of the court, then I can attack that ball hitting down at the opponent and hit winners from that. So that's kind of how I discovered the shot and how it really is a great shot to have in your arsenal. But I want to talk about the name too real quick, because there is some confusion a lot of times with it and some controversy. The first thing I want to point out is that the shot, E-R-N-E is how it's spelled, Ernie. And you might hear some people say Earn or Ernie with an I-E, but the truth is it's named after Ernie Perry. E-R-N.
Ernie Perry.
Is Ernie's first name, and his last name is Perry, P-E-R-R-Y. He's a longtime pickleball player. He's been around the game for a long time. even though he's not credited with being the inventor of that shot, there were people who did that shot before him. However, he was the first player to utilize that shot, the Ernie shot, at a national tournament where there was a lot of people watching and a lot of the pros and stuff. So it got nicknamed the Ernie because of Ernie Perry. So that's where that name comes from. So people are not spelling it incorrectly when they spell it E-R-N-E, because that's how he spells his name.
Okay. So you kind of mentioned the Ernie is really, you're on the side of the court, and instead of waiting for that ball to travel 7 feet beyond the kitchen line, you're pretty much smacking it right almost at the net.
Yes, and if you have ever witnessed an Ernie or executed an Ernie yourself, there is no greater satisfaction, Brett, than seeing the look on your opponent's face when they hit the ball up to you and you jump the kitchen or the non-volley zone and you're able to hit that ball for a winner right up next to the net. It's such a gratifying and satisfying feeling. And what it really does is it puts a little bit of fear in your opponent for the next time they hit that same shot. And all it really does, honestly, besides hitting a winner for that, is it creates another dynamic to your game to where people have to watch out for that shot, right? And I always explain this in lessons and teaching that I do with people that I teach. I tell them, if you're a plumber, for example, and you go to a plumbing job and you open up your tool bag and you have 1 or 2 tools in the bag, and they ask you to fix something fairly complex and you don't have the right tools, you're not going to be able to do that job at the best possible way you can. So the more tools you can open up into that bag and pull out of, the better off your game is, the more well-rounded your game's going to be. So I love analogies, and that to me is such a great analogy of being a plumber but not having the right tools. If you're a pickleball player, you want to try to develop as many tools in your game as possible, so people have to consider those things when they play against you.
You know, that is a great analogy. I love it, and I'm probably going to steal it from you. And you know what they always say is the first time you hear something. So when I share that analogy, the first time I hear it, you give credit. I'm going to say, I learned this from Scott Golden. And then the second time I share it, I'm going to say, I heard about this analogy. And the third time I'm going to say, I created this analogy. So just want to give you a heads up. But what's interesting about that analogy, and it's a great analogy, is having that tool box, that tool in your box. What are some indications that I actually need that tool? What is it that's happening to me as a player that gives me the idea I'm being set up for an Ernie, or I should do an Ernie? What are some things I should be looking for?
Great question, Brett. So the way I discovered the shot, like I said earlier in the conversation, was that I wasn't a strong dinker, and still that's not my strongest suit, but I've gotten a lot better at it over the years I've been playing. But when I first started, I realized people were starting to hit the ball to me quite often. And I think through process of elimination and evaluating me and my partner, they would oftentimes realize that, hey, Scott, I'm sure the conversation would happen in the little between the points huddles, but I realized that they were starting to dink the ball at me a lot. And so I started to see some patterns develop in my opponents where I could quickly and instinctually pick up on the fact that they were probably going to hit the ball to me, mainly because I was the weaker link in the group at that time in that partnership. And so I started finding a way, because my dink game didn't develop overnight, right? That dinking process takes a while to develop. And so what I did realize I could do pretty quickly is, because I'm fairly athletic and I'm pretty quick on my feet, I realized I could neutralize that 7-foot kitchen on my side by jumping through the air and landing outside of the non-volley zone and attacking that ball as I'm jumping through the air. I realized that was a weapon that I could use to get those players to stop attacking me so much and so often. There's nothing worse, and I think all of us, Brett, right? Everybody raised their hands watching. If you have ever been the one that's been picked on in a match, and you feel this big because you realize you're the weak link, and you realize, oh my goodness, they're going after me hardcore, especially in tournaments.
Right.
And that's where I think the Ernie can really come into play for somebody. So what are the indicators? Well, it's when you're the one getting hit the ball quite often, or what I don't think gets talked about quite enough. And this is really one of the reasons that I teach this shot specifically to ladies for mixed doubles, because oftentimes in mixed doubles, Brett, what happens? They hit the ball to the female because that's what they've been told to do, right? Whether the female is actually weaker in their game or not, a lot of times that's just the strategy that you employ. So if a female on the court in mixed doubles has the ability to hit Ernie shots on command and at will, they become a person that you may not want to hit at all of a sudden. And it puts a little bit of fear in your shot when you go to hit that ball to them, especially multiple times in a row.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For the average player out there, maybe a 3-5, let's say 3-0 to 4-0. What are some of the techniques that you would say, listen, this would be the first step in practicing an Ernie or trying an Ernie? What are some of the processes that you might teach?
Sure, absolutely. So the first thing, I think the first misconception, Brett, about the Ernie is that only young, fast, athletic people are the ones that can hit the Ernie. And that's simply not the truth. The truth is the main component to this shot is anticipation and your instincts to let you know when you need to jump for this shot or to go to this shot, okay? So after you've played enough or you've played people enough, you start to see some tendencies. And what you want to look for is when your opponent drops their head to go hit the ball, when they drop their head, they basically take their eyes off of you as their opponent and they drop it to look at the ball to see where they're going to hit the ball. And that's when you need to jump or cross through the non-volley zone to execute the Ernie. Because if you go too soon, you're going to see that they will know you're coming and they will either hit you with the ball or they'll move the ball inside enough to where you're not going to be able to hit that Ernie effectively. So you want to make sure the timing is proper. One of the indicators there is when they drop their eyes. The other thing is if they're forced to hit to you by either a cross-court dink that's aggressive from your partner, or you can actually set up the shot yourself by hitting a dink straight across to, so if you're on the left side or what we call the ad side, you hit a dink deep to their right foot and you force them back off the kitchen and they drop their head, that's when you'll shoot. And then as they start to come up and they open up their paddle face to you, you know that ball is coming towards you then. They cannot change the direction of that shot after they've already left, the ball has left the paddle face. So you pretty much got them at that point, okay? But the key also is letting your partner know that, hey, going into this, hey, I'm gonna try to execute some Ernies throughout this game when I see them. What I need you to do as my partner is to cover me, to slide over to the middle some, so that in case the opponent recognizes early enough or just happens to hit the ball a little too far inside, it's not going to burn us and we're not going to get beat on that specific shot by them. All they need to do is slide over, and when they pick up that dink, when it bounces and the partner picks it up for you, they're going to softly dink the ball either back over to that same opponent in the same spot to give you another chance at an Ernie, or they can choose to move that ball back over to the other opponent, back cross court, the other direction, and give you time to get back on the court. So that's kind of one of the important things about it is you don't want to leave your partner out high and dry, and you also don't want to not communicate with your partner beforehand that you're going to try some of these Ernie shots.
Now, would you recommend, I know since you're talking about going to the side of the court, you can do an Ernie from the ad side, you can do an Ernie from the even side or the left side of the court and the right side of the court. Would you recommend, if you're going to do an Ernie, that it's with your forehand or backhand, or does that make a difference to you?
It does make a difference. Obviously, if you're a right-handed player, being set up on the ad side or the left side of the court, you are going to have your forehand executing that Ernie. However, I have found that if you're fairly athletic and you don't mind hitting shots with your backhand, you absolutely can jump over the non-volley zone on the right side or the side that you would start serving on. You can jump the kitchen there and then hit either a slap shot backhand straight at the person across, or sometimes what I like to do is I'll angle my paddle really hard inside, and I'll kind of go from up high to low or up to down at the right foot of that opponent straight across from me, kind of at an angle, which creates some really tough dynamics for that team to try to return that shot. So it doesn't have that backhand, doesn't have to be a super aggressive hard shot. It just needs to be at the right angle and at the right depth so that you can hit it with effectiveness.
Now, that is some great ideas, some great tools to add to a player's toolbox in regards to playing the game of pickleball and adding an Ernie. I know I've seen you doing an Ernie on YouTube where you're like flying through the air like an eagle, perfect execution. I think your opponents bowed to you after that. It was, where can audience members go to see you execute an Ernie, or do you have a website that we can send them to?
Sure. So the main place where you can see my content and the things that I'm doing within the pickleball community is on Facebook. You can go to Golden Boy Pickleball. It's all 3 different words, Golden Boy Pickleball. It's on Facebook. And then also Golden Boy Pickleball is on YouTube. And that's where you'd be able to see several of the videos that I've made as far as shots that I've done with the Ernie against opponents, and also just other content that I put out there for the pickleball community, which is fairly often actually.
Well, we see a lot on Facebook. We see a lot on YouTube. The information and education you're giving to our pickleball community is outstanding. And so we want to thank you for your contribution. Thank you for everything that you do. And Scott, thank you for your paddles. We donated one. We gave one to a winner today. And I think I guarantee that they're going to win a medal with it if they use your paddle. Did I go too far with that?
I think what you should have added with that is that if they take a lesson with Coach Morgan Evans, right, after using my paddle for a little while, then they can probably win a medal. But no, I mean, that's great. I appreciate you putting that out there. And I'm more than willing to be one of the people that donated some product. And that paddle is actually a great paddle. It's the brand new edgeless paddle. So it's a little bit thicker core. It's 9/16 inch core. And it's edgeless. So it's the first that I've seen. You know, Gearbox has a great paddle. I loved that section with Rafael the other day, but the paddle that we've come out for me, the Golden Axe, is a little bit thicker core. It still does have the honeycomb, but it's a great paddle. And the one that the person that you gave it, Raz, I think, Raz.
Yeah.
I think that was the one. He will be getting a fantastic paddle, I assure you.
Well, thank you. And hopefully we'll get you back online again, talk about other, I know you've got a wealth of information you can share with us, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. And real quick, because we had a couple technical difficulties. Before I go, Brett, I just wanted to tell you thank you, Dave Dinwiddie, Steve Taylor, all the people behind the scenes that are making this happen for the pickleball community. Thank you so much. I'm honored, and it's been a pleasure to be on this with you, and I look forward to doing one in the future with you guys.
Thank you again, Scott. Appreciate it. We'll see you in the courts hopefully soon.
You got it, Brett.
Okay, take care. That was Scott Golden, just an amazing player, and just an all-around nice guy, a contributor to the pickleball community. We're going to be talking to Coach Matty, wrapping up our day. If you're like me, over 50, he's got some great insights. Today, he's going to be talking about getting from the baseline to the non-volley zone without getting, we said without peril, but without getting beat up. And I can definitely use that information. Hey, Coach Matty, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How are you today?
I am so grateful just to be talking to pickleball players today. How's the weather out there?
So far, fantastic shows you've done. Everybody on there so far has been great. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Before we get into our topic, and the topic is going to be how to get from the baseline to the non-volley zone without getting killed. We were nice in saying without peril, and you've got some great tips for that today. But before we jump into that, can you just tell us introduce yourself? Let us know who you are and how you got into pickleball and what you're all about.
Okay. Can you see the goose in back of me in the picture?
I can see a picture of a goose.
Okay, that's me. Now here comes my wife. Coach May Shin is the other goose. I want to introduce her as well because we're from pickleballcouple.com and we're both certified from the IPTK and the PPR. So I want
wonderful.
So thank you, baby. All righty. So anyway, I'm IPTPA and PPR certified level 2 and teaching pro as well.
Okay.
Approximately 7 years, and my wife's taught with me for the last 3 years. I taught her how to play, and she became certified. And we've taught in 26 states. We're teaching in Burton, Texas, as soon as this same kind of renews a little bit. We've taught in 4 countries. We've done 4 cruises. We're teaching another one in Jamaica. We're going to have a big thing over there from October 1st to October 8th coming up.
Oh, nice.
Pickleball has kind of taken over my life, like it has, I think, everybody that's watching. It is absolutely the most addictive social sport in history, in my opinion. And meeting some very nice people and getting some great experience out of it. And I'm from the Villages, Florida, where we have a little over 230 courts, I believe, and maybe 7,000 to 10,000 players. And we have 3 clinics here in the Villages. If you move here, they have 3 clinics. They have leagues. There's a lot of stuff to do here, which is great, connected to pickleball.
Well, you've been teaching for quite a while. We're going to be talking about the average pickleball player that's over 50.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's going to be a different style of teaching someone that's over 50 versus teaching someone that's 19 years old, 25 years old, 30 years old.
Yes.
What would you say is the major difference between the 2 styles?
The 2 styles are the young kids that are coming into this game and people that are in great shape and people that have played tennis for years and years, like I used to 42 years of tennis. They have unbelievable ground strokes. They can hit a hard ball and keep it low and keep it in, or at least shock the person that's up at the net, and they won't have time to react a lot of times. So they either get hit up here or up here. People over the age of 50, I teach probably 95% of people that are over the age of 50 up to 90-something years old, because we have some here. Unfortunately, a lot of people over the age of 50, the injuries start to add up. So either the knees, the back, the shoulder. And when you're injured, or when your reaction time, which is the big thing, has gotten slower, it's much better to buy time to get to the line. Slow the ball down to give yourself time, because placement over power is really the answer to this game up to a certain level. And I pretty much teach up to the 4-0, up to 4-5 level. And then people start adding misdirects and all kinds of different shots. But the people at the higher level, they can put 9 out of 10 shots at angles. But people that are 3-0, 2-5, 3-5, they're going for angle shots that they shouldn't be going for. They're going from the back line and hitting the ball as hard as they can. And they're moving through that ball when they could have just slowed it down and hit a 3rd, a 5th, a 7th shot, if that's what it takes, because they might be injured or they hit it a little too high. And all they have to do is split step, stop, and then go. Then they have an advantage. You want to slow this ball down, especially the older you get, so that you're in control. Placement over power is the answer.
Okay, so let's say the average pickleball player is somewhere between a 3-0 and maybe a strong 3-5 and a 4-0 player. Let's say we're looking at a bell curve. The majority of those players are going to be within that category. And we're talking today about they're at the baseline. They're returning the serve, for example, and their goal is to get to the non-volley zone. And a lot of we were talking with Nicole Hopson earlier, and bad coaching from non-certified players or non-certified coaching, where they're almost taught to hit the ball then dash, right? It's like a sprint, and it's like no. So let's start with the average player over 50. They're returning serve. They're at the baseline. They're returning serve. What should they be doing? What should be going through their head?
Number one, they should be thinking about the placement of that return, because they're trying to buy time to get to the line, because who has the advantage? The serving team or the returning team? The returning team does. One person's already up, the person's back, and the slower, higher, and deeper they hit that ball, I've done it. I can walk up with my paddle in ready position and get to that line by putting the ball high, slow, and deep. But where do I place that? Well, if 90-something percent of people have a weaker backhand than they do a forehand, up until 4 or 5 level, I'm not talking about the highest level. And this is where I seem to split with a lot of the teachers. A lot of teachers think they should be banging that return and getting stuck or running through a ball, which is the worst thing you can do is run through the ball. Try and hit a ball on the move and place it, because placement over power is my theory. So if they hit that return and they place it low to a backhand, they aim 6 feet up from the baseline, because if you aim 6 feet up, it's a good shot. If you aim 2 inches from that baseline, because you're not a 5.055 player, it's an out. I'd rather have good, great instead of great, out. So you place it to the backhand, you put it down the middle of the court most of the time to the backhand person. You have 10 feet in each direction to make a mistake. You're using the lowest part of the net. And the best is you're causing confusion, especially between married couples. It's a joke, I'm only kidding. Married couples. Yeah, so that's the answer pretty much for most of my teaching. It's called percentage pickleball. If you can just place a ball to the middle of the court and cause confusion at the lowest part of the net, 10 feet each direction, and make a mistake low to the backhand, you will beat a lot of people that are better than you, because you're using leeway. You're keeping it inside the court. So that return, if you place it there, you get up to the line, your partner's already there. Now you have a chance of winning at least 70% of the points if that team stays back. If the team starts coming up, their chances to get better if they split step and stop and slow that ball down into the kitchen. And now you have a 50-50 chance of winning the point.
Okay, so the person that is at the baseline returning the serve, would you recommend, you talk about positioning or placement, even before their opponent serves the ball, would you say that they should know where their return to serve is going rather than waiting for it?
Absolutely.
Right? Rather than, go ahead.
No, I'm listening. Go ahead.
I was going to say, rather than waiting for the ball to bounce and then figuring out where they're going to return it is, before that serve comes, I, as a player, should know exactly where I'm going to place that ball.
Yes, that is a great question. On every shot in this game, you should know where you're hitting that shot before that ball comes over the net. Some people do it 2 shots before, some people actually 3 shots before, just like tennis players do. You want to know where you're going, so that takes out the guessing. And you can keep your head down on any shot, and you will put it where you want to put it. It's an amazing thing. If you keep your head down, hit that ball, finish the stroke, it will go where you want it to go, because your shoulder's going to line up. On that return, you want to be doing a closed stance, not an open stance like this. It's a closed stance where you turn your shoulder. So pick a placement on every shot in this game, and you'll be a great player.
So they are one of the things that I share with those that I coach as well is I always say that if you send it Federal Express, it's coming back Federal Express.
Exactly.
If you send the ball hard, you're not going to have enough time to get to the non-volley zone. So what technique are you teaching your students in regards to returning it? Is it a nice lofty shot? How are you telling them to hit the ball over? Where is the apex of the ball? What are your strategies with your instruction?
Okay, with my instruction, I never say never. I just did. And I don't say always. So 1 out of 10 or 15 shots, depending on what you know you can do, because you're making a book on yourself before you make a book on the other players. You have to know what you can do. And you hit a high, slow, deep return to the backhand of the person on the left side if they're a right-hander. And even if they're a left, same thing, put it down that middle. So if you know you can do that, you should be doing it. But once in a while, and I've had plenty of people say, well, on that return, should I do a 3rd shot drop return once in a while? At certain levels, absolutely. If you can get good at your 3rd shot, you can just drop it. When you've had them back with that high, slow, deep return continuously, once in a while, add it. Once in a while, add the hard, low ground stroke. Some people call it a bang. I call it a hard, low ground stroke. So once in a while, move things around. But you should be putting it high, slow, and deep, because you don't want people to gain real estate when they come up. You want them to have a hard time getting up, because the percentages are there that they're going to make a mistake. So that return, slow it down so you buy time to get to the line, because you don't want your feet exposed or your angles open. So if you stand in no man's, no woman's land, transition zone, whatever you want to call it, as you're coming up, your feet are exposed and your angles are open. Once you get up to 1 inch from that no volley zone line, you've got this game. If you can volley and dink and you get 1 inch from that line, as soon as you can, by split stepping, you stop every time someone's ready to hit that ball. You should be stopped with the paddle in front of your body and ready. So there's my answer.
There's some good advice there. What are some of the learning tools that you're involved in at this point in your career? We've seen the game of pickleball change in the last several years in regards to philosophies and strategies and techniques. What are some of the tools that you're involved with at this point in your teaching career?
I want to give kudos to my mentor, Coach Mo. A lot of people know Coach Mo, and he came out with a book called Pickleball A to Z, with trying to remember I'm sorry. Oh, Joe. Yeah, Joe. What's his name again? Joe Baker. I'm sorry. He came out with a book with Joe Baker, and unfortunately, they picked me as the model. They could have had my beautiful wife. So I know that they're getting old because they didn't make a good decision. But the book Pickleball A to Z is unbelievable. It's a great book. I actually have some signed copies. If anybody wants to get a hold of me at the end, let me know. That's one book that I'm in. There's a guy named John Callahan that's writing a book right now. He's a great coach out of Indiana, I believe. And he just called me the other night too. He's going to put some stuff about me in there. And Coach Mo and I also came out with his DVD #2, probably about 2.5, 3 years ago. That's another great teaching tool. And then, I highly suggest people take lessons and clinics. Don't let it go. Yes, there's so many things to learn about this game. My joke is 1,500 things to learn about this game, but only work on 2, maybe 3 at most every time you work on it.
Now, Coach Matty, you've been playing pickleball for quite a while. Where do you see the sport going? What are your predictions for pickleball in the near future?
Near future, you're going to see a lot more money coming into the sport. A lot of tennis players are coming over, and as the money comes into it, you're going to see this sport just bloom and go crazy. I believe that it is going to surpass tennis. I really do, and I think that's going to be about 10 to 15 years. If you drive around, so many tennis courts have grass grown at them. They've been made into pickleball courts. The signs are there already. But what I really see, truly believe from my heart, is the Olympics. It's going to happen. We're going to see this in the Olympics, I believe, 8 to 12 years. I think it's going to take that long. But it is. Yeah. I mean, look at the numbers of the people playing right now. 3.5 million, I believe. It's gone up from 300,000 since I started. And it's just, doubling every year. It's going crazy. So, but it is the most. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You think we're going to go to rally scoring?
A lot of people are against it. I can tell you that. I enjoy it. And the reason I enjoy it is because you're held accountable for everything you do. Yes. It's
every single point. Every single point.
Yeah.
Before we go, is there anything that you like to say before we go?
Yeah. Once again, I want to thank Coach Mo for teaching me everything he's taught me. He was the top coach 13 years ago before this sport became really great. And him and I actually teach around the country together, and we give a book and a DVD, so get a hold of us for that. I want to talk about the unthinkable real quick.
Okay.
And I'm only joking, but please treat others on and off the court with love, respect, and kindness and trust. Remember, I said I'm only kidding about the unthinkable. So don't just hit to the weaker player. This is one of the pet peeves I have. And if somebody hits to my partner continuously, what I do is I have a chair ready on the side, and I slowly walk sideways and I sit down, and they don't even notice I'm sitting down. So try to hit to the better player as well, at least 50, 60%, so they get a chance to play and you get better. Help someone learn so that they can feel accepted, because I don't know if you remember, I remember the first day I came on, and I see so many new people, students, that give up after one day because somebody didn't treat them good. So these are things that I want people to think about. And the biggest one for me is there's a bully everywhere. And I hate to talk about it, but I've got to say it. But almost every place has one bully. I hear stories every time we teach across the country. What people need to do with that bully is just count 1, 2, 3, 4, and put your paddle at number 5 and never play with them again. And if everybody did that, that bully will leave and go find another court. I know it's not nice, but I'm trying to save people's hearts, because a lot of people give up because people, which is not a big percentage, aren't very nice. Last couple of things: introduce a new player to this game once a week. it's a great thing. Imagine how it's changed your life, my life. I met my wife on the court. She came to my clinic. So many people are meeting people, going out to dinners, they're traveling. It's awesome. It's the most social sport in history. I just want to say thank you for everything you guys are doing, because this is really going to help the sport. And my wife and I feel honored, and thank you so much for thinking about me.
Well, I just have 3 quick questions from the audience.
I'm not in a rush.
Here it is. My mind tells me to place the shot, but then I react instead of acting. How do I discipline to change that?
The best thing you can do is have a ready position. That paddle has to be up. Okay, because if your paddle's not ready, you're reactive. Imagine if your paddle's down and somebody hits a ball right here and it's not going out. You've got to come up and go out. You have 2 motions. Anytime you have 2 motions, it's not going to be good. What if your paddle is ready and the ball came to it? Now you can decide whether to let go of your fingers a little bit and have the grip down from a 10 down to a 2 or a 3, so you can soften the ball in the kitchen. You can even decide not to put too much swing on it, because a swing causes the ball to stay up and the grip causes the ball to stay up the tighter you have it. So ready position is everything. You have to be ready on every shot, otherwise you are reactive.
Okay, great advice. One audience member asked, define split stepping.
Okay, a split step is being, okay, so if I were to say I serve, there's one person up at the line on the other side of the court. I serve to the opponent. They high slow deep the ball, and they get that ball right in front of me, but they keep me deep, and there's 2 people up at the line now. My next shot is going to be a slow third shot. That's what I like to do. You don't have to. There's 4 choices. Most people think there's 3, but there are 4. Anyway, I'm going to slow that third shot down, but what if I hit that third shot a little bit high where it's attackable? Do I want to be moving through that ball? Absolutely not. I want to jump on 2 feet. I split step, and I want to be completely stopped with my paddle ready every time that ball is going to be touched by the opponent on the other side of the net. And you're going to split step over 100 times a game if you play the game right. If you run through the ball and you do not split step, you're not going to be a great player, because a lot of balls feet while you're moving. So a split step is actually stopping in a ready position, motionless, so that you can handle that ball. And you have to do it when that ball's this far from their paddle on the other side. You should be stopped. You shouldn't be moving forward, sideways, anything. Stopped.
Okay, last question. Reaction time slows as we age. Are there any drills you might suggest to help everyone improve with this?
Well, my wife, she throws things at me. Right, baby? You shouldn't. No, you can hit a ball against the wall because it comes back twice as fast. When it hits that wall, it's coming back twice as fast. Just don't do it too much, because it's going to ruin. You have to make sure your paddle is at the right level, open at a certain part when a ball comes down to your feet. If it's, even with you want a perpendicular and a touch open. So you don't want to do too many wall drills for your reaction time, but that is probably one of the best. Or have a person on the other side and do some drills where you're boxing. But remember, everything we do creates a habit. So don't get into the habit of banging that ball back and forth with somebody on the other side without also practicing letting go of that paddle and dropping the ball to the toes to do what's called a reset. And most people don't learn a reset until 4.5. Some people that are 4.0 know how to reset a ball. But if you just practice bang, 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 that's all you're ever going to do.
That's it. Great advice. Coach Matty, thank you for taking the time to share that wisdom.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate and helping, because I love everybody, and this is the best sport to share and help people.
I always say that pickleball players are the nicest people in the world, and you just showed that. Hopefully we'll get you on again soon to share a little bit more of your wisdom. Thank you again.
I love it, Brett. Thank you very much. Take care.
Okay, take care. Hopefully see you in the courts.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are almost done. Actually, we are done. We had some great speakers today. Thank you for hanging in there. Tomorrow, just at 12 o'clock, we got the famous Mark Renaissance. His topic, training with intelligence, how small things can make a difference when it comes to practicing. You're not going to want to miss Mark share his wisdom. Dr. Greg is going to be talking about recovery modalities after pickleball exercise. And we all know after playing games, we need to recover. We got Joe Frasca that's going to talk about neural pickleball, Tim Cuss on nutrition, Laura Fenton, an Olympian, all-star player, pro player, who's got it, covering the court through geometry. I'm so glad I'm involved in this because I would just pay to listen to Laura talk, especially about this subject. We're hopefully going to have Steve Dawson on with us. Janice Mundy from Pickle Billy is going to be talking about free hosting, especially for those of us that are traveling, maybe traveling to tournaments. And we're going to have people that can host us for free. Or even if you're just traveling for pleasure and you're not in a tournament. We're going to have a lot of giveaways. Michelle Esquivel, a top pro, is going to talk about her CAP philosophy. Paul Olson talking about the younger generation of pickleballs players coming in. Scott Moore, and much more. So thank you everyone for today. It was great to hang out with you, and hopefully we'll see you on the courts soon. My prayers and thoughts go out to everyone during this pandemic, and thank you for all the players. Thank you for all the coaches, and we'll talk to you soon.